All right, welcome to, I think this is like live stream 102 or something ridiculous like that. Uh, so anyhow, as I usually do at the top, I'm going to kind of introduce myself, let people know where they can find me and stuff like that. We'll obviously introduce Paul, who wanted to hop in too, which is cool. The more the merrier. And Paul's a really talented illustrator and animator and cartoonist. And we'll get into like where you can find his stuff and stuff in a second. And as I'm doing this stream, like my goal is always just going to be like to ink some comic pages. My hope, actually, this will probably be a little bit longer of a stream than the last few, is to like finish this comic page, at least inking this page before I crash. And then I'm also going to work on this McMurphy's Stout, which is like a locally brewed. I'll show it off. There's a place in Lancaster, in my hometown, that's got. It's called Bravery Brewing, and if you're ever in that area, or if you're ever heading to like Vegas and you have to stop somewhere and like you have quite a few hours to drink and then sober up, then I recommend going there. They make really tasty beer, and this is like an Irish red, so I'm excited about that. That's what I'm gonna drink whilst working. But anyhow, if you're ever in the Antelope Valley area, that's like probably my favorite brewery in LA County, which is kind of shocking.
Maybe I'll have to check it out.
Not to go to, but just for the beer is really good. Yeah. And then, okay, so who am I? For anybody who's like just stumbling upon this stream randomly, as we have happened sometimes, I've been a professional artist for about over 15 years. Been an art director for about 8, and when I'm not art directing, we're working on illustration and graphic design. Professionally, I'm also doing comic books, which also I guess I do professionally, if you want to call that professional. I don't know. Anyhow, anyhow, Two Stories is my book about faith and mental illness that I handwrite, hand letter, and hand ink, and that's available for purchase on Amazon as well as other online book retailers. I recommend people go to Amazon because you save some money. So you can pick that up today for like a really cheap cost, and that's what I'm actually working on volume 2 of tonight for Marcosia Enterprises, who actually my friend, and I think it's a mutual friend of ours, Ken Mora, also is published through Marcosia. So check out their titles as well and maybe order something by Ken. And then also I have this book, Jacob's Apartment, which is like a story kind of in the vein of like Ghost World and Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind. That kind of like slice of life, like romance with dreams and like interweaving storylines. And that is a full color graphic novel coming out, written by me from Graphic Mundi, and that comes out in June at bookstores everywhere. So if you're located somewhere and you like graphic novels, wherever you like to buy graphic novels, just say, hey, order this book, because it's distributed by Diamond, so it should be available pretty much everywhere. And I'm excited about it. So that's my short-winded plugs. I managed to do it under 5 minutes. Paul, where can everybody find your stuff before we get into making some art and fun stuff?
Yeah, paulpate.com. There awesome. You can find, I've written and drawn 2 graphic novels. I've got some art books and some comics and links to my animation YouTube page and link to my Instagram where I keep my latest creations. So that's rundown on me, Josh.
That sounds good, Paul.
Under 30 seconds.
Boom. All right. Nice. I gotta work on that.
No. By the way, thanks for all the kind words. I got your graphic novel too.
Oh, cool.
2 stories, and I just think it's a masterpiece. It's really great. Great art, great story, really thoughtfully done, and just outstanding. So congratulations on that work.
Thank you, Paul. I'm trying to get better at, this is something I consciously, and I'm sure you have this too, right? Where it's like our instinct as artists when I hear a compliment like that is to like instantly belittle myself. Like,
yeah.
so I'm trying to get better at just being like, thank you. Because like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a nice thing. And it takes, it's a risk for somebody to give a compliment in the first place. So it's like, I'm trying to make a conscious effort at trying to be better at just being like, thank you, but it is hard. Like, I don't know if you have that response too.
Oh,
like,
for
like,
sure.
Paul, like your animations are amazing. You're like,
all artists are just completely neurotic messes.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Full of insecurities and so.
Yeah.
Sure.
But thank you. I'm glad you picked it up and got something out of it too. I put some work into those, so I'm proud of them. Cool. Yeah. So what are you working on tonight? Like, what are you?
So I'm working on this. I wanted to continue the conversation that we had a little bit earlier about, like making your art.
Yeah.
Fit into your life, so that you can work on it, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us tend to like, chop off this or break off a piece of art that we're not really prepared to actually do. And Jake was alluding to that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, you could start a graphic novel, like 2 stories. Well, you've done one before. So when you start on your second one, you're prepared. You understand what it takes.
Yeah, I think there's a mix.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a mix because it's like you kind of have to almost, I think it's like a pregnancy in a weird way where it's like, if you've, if you've witnessed like a birth, it's a violent, like horrifying experience.
Yeah.
And there was this weird thing that happened where like my wife has these like vague memories of it. Like they aren't super clear cut.
Right.
And I think that's like a good thing. And I think that's probably how people manage to have more than one kid. Definitely having a kid is a much harder thing than like making a graphic novel.
It's just you and I here though.
But I feel like there's like that survival instinct where it's like when you're creating something like that, you almost have to like, to me, I'm convinced that you almost have to like forget how much work it is. Like when you're done, because you get such a rush. It's kind of like an animation where you do an animation and then like midway through it, you're probably like, why did I pick animation? This is insane. Yeah. And then you finish it and you see everything moving and you're like, oh, sweet, I got to do another animation.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah.
So that's how it kind of works for me. And then I do think like you're right in the sense that like once you've finished one, you can kind of analyze it and be like, okay, what can I do differently to like speed up the process or expedite things,
Yeah. And you're better prepared. Like my first graphic novel took me 2.5 years.
Yeah.
My second one took me a year.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I was, just better prepared. But I think a lot of us, we start on a big project that we know we can't finish. Because this is what I did before I finished my graphic novels. I started on a ton of them.
Yeah.
And finished them.
Yeah.
Right. And I think what we do is it's like a commitment issue, I don't know if you do this, but I thought Jake was kind of talking about it earlier. It's like, okay, I'm going to work on this masterpiece.
Yes.
And you do 10 pages and then, you don't have to do the next 290.
Yeah.
So because you're really not going to.
Yeah.
But now if you actually break off like 16 pages, which is what I'm working on right now, 16, I know I can do that. And so when I'm done, I'll actually be done. And that's a little bit even more scarier, because now you're committed.
Yeah, that's true.
And when I'm done and it's still not even good, then what am I going to do?
Dude, you're hitting on so many important points too. I want to kind of pick them all apart. Before that, though, we're joined by somebody on Twitch who said, what would you say is the most difficult thing to deal with as artists? So let's field that real quick before we get back into this. Which I think is a really good conversation. What do you think is the most difficult thing to deal with as an artist, Paul?
Yeah, just like we've been talking about, just like mental and emotional anguish of it all. I just feel. I mean, I've gotten a lot better over the last 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I'm just so insecure about it all the time.
Yeah.
It's funny. Last weekend, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I went to do some caricatures, live caricatures, and as my wife said to me, I was telling her what a stressful day that was because I had a busy day before that, and she's like, "Well, I thought you were going to go. That was kind of relaxing for you." Like, no, it's not relaxing. It's exhausting.
Well, also,
why do you do it then? She says to me, well, I want to do it. I do want to do it, but it's not relaxing. And there are some artworks that I do that are relaxing, but that's not one of them. Doing something live like that, where people look and go, that doesn't look like me.
Yeah, I'm like, relaxing to me, like a relaxing thing would be like if I went to the zoo on my own and I'm not being bothered by anyone. And I could like sit and just sketch people and animals and stuff and just like sketch from observation, and there's no end goal. It's just exploration. Yeah. That's fun. That sounds relaxing. I barely ever get to do that,
Right. For me,
but like live caricatures sounds like a heart attack for me. Like just the judgment of it, where you're judged on the spot. It's like equivalent to like your first art jobs where obviously when you've worked an art job like in-house a couple times, it's not super bad, but like the first one you have, the whole time imposter syndrome is just like flooding, where you're like, they're going to figure out I don't belong here. They're going to know I don't know what I'm doing, And then you realize like everyone just kind of like, you just kind of have to gain this weird like confidence, like where you're just like, okay, I've done it before. I'm not going to freak out. I'm just going to try it,
Yeah. What about you? What is the most difficult thing to deal with as an artist?
I would say the same thing that's like the most difficult thing to deal with in life. I'd say it's like commerce is hard. It's like I think that at first it's like trying to figure out how to kind of eke out a living doing it, and then I think later on it becomes like how to make art without letting like commerce and like commercial concerns like get in the way. That's like really, so money's the hardest part.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because like often I think the better art like isn't the most like at least immediately like monetarily satisfying art. And so it's like finding that balance, and then like trying to, I guess it's like a two-prong answer, but it's like trying to have the trust and commitment to like actually make stuff that's like that bigger picture stuff, because it's so tempting, as an artist, it's tempting to just do like really quick one-off stuff, and then when I'm off work, like do stuff that I know will make like a lot of money, but it's like I don't want to do that stuff,
right.
So it's like that weird thing of like gaining the confidence and the trust to be like, oh, no, I'm going to do this like this non-paying stuff,
Right.
I'm going to do that weird Van Gogh stuff instead of the stuff that's currently showing in galleries or whatever,
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean that also, man, it changes day to day, but I'd say right now that's probably the hardest part. And then also just, I guess the other one would be just having the conviction to do your own projects, because it takes a lot of, like Paul was talking about, it's the mind battle that's hard, where you're constantly fighting your own self as like an enemy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not being very supportive of myself.
Well, it is funny because it's like you do come to that realization where once all the other gates start opening, or you see some gates open, you realize like sometimes the gatekeeper isn't like some guy in a suit, like it's you, like it's a weird thing. Yeah. And that, I think that's that'll tie back hopefully to what we were talking about before, where it's like Philip was saying, hey, I see you're both on both YouTube and Twitch. Which one should I be watching from? I'd recommend, Philip, watching on YouTube, But make sure you're following on Twitch too. But because that helps me out. But yeah, YouTube's more the main platform. You'll notice on YouTube I have like a couple thousand subscribers, and on Twitch I think I have like 2 people like who watch. So I primarily gear it around YouTube. But thanks, Philip, also for hopping in and watching. Yeah, I think for me, I think the thing that is oh wow, now I feel like I lost the thread. Where were we before we were? We were talking about the projects thing, like right?
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
bigger...
So we were talking about how, well, I had left off where I was saying, you can break off a big giant project and say, okay, I'm going to make this, my great American graphic novel or whatever.
Yeah.
You draw 10 pages and then you quit and start over because you're not really going to draw the other 290,
Oh yeah, and you mentioned...
But if you also, like, I'm drawing 16 pages, so I know I can do that relatively quick. That's scary too, because I know at the end of it, I'm going to be done, and it's going to be what it is. And what is not as good as I dreamed it up to be in my head,
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons people don't do the big project.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, cool. And Jim said he's gonna jump in, I guess, at the top of the hour, top of the morning. I don't know. Do you like Kendrick Lamar at all, Paul?
No. Well, no, I haven't listened to him. I mean, I like it. I like that kind of music, but I haven't.
I think you might like Kendrick Lamar. I don't like a lot of modern hip hop, but
right.
But I know you like hip hop,
mm-hmm.
And I think some of the stuff he's doing, I think you'd appreciate because it's got more like in the roots of like the hieroglyphics and like Deltron and like early like Wu-Tang when it was like raw, like it's really good stuff. But anyhow, he also has this song where just to mess with people, he just goes top of the moon and like over and over again for like 5 minutes. So now anytime somebody says like top of the hour, I just think of Kendrick Lamar's voice saying top of the morning.
Gotcha.
But he so anyhow, on that topic though, like I think that thing you were describing about the fear of like, when you get to the end, I actually think that might be what prevents people from finishing graphic novels or really committing to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I think a lot of the time it's just the fear because in your head, it's easy to think that you're going to make the great American graphic novel. But the second you actually make a graphic novel, you have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
And you can't just fantasize about it. Like you have to put it out there and then deal with like 4 people reading it or 1 person reading it. And maybe the person who reads it doesn't like it, like
right. Or maybe
that's
it's not that good,
Yeah, and that's not as fun as like the fantasy and also like the sideline thing where you can kind of be like a spectator and criticize. But like the second you get in the ring, you really risk the possibility that you might just get knocked out. It's
when I went to create my first graphic novel, what I figured out was this is really hard.
Yeah.
And then there's a reason like people, have developed their talents over years, It's there's no way you can do it and get better at it until you do it.
Yeah, agreed.
You have to just at some point in your life, you have to decide to do it. So, but I think, I feel like I'm past that now.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't think it's a stretch to say that you are. But
I feel like I finally kind of am. I will say there is this thing, and this is a thing that I really believe in, at least with comics. I feel like if you've treaded through and finished and printed a graphic novel, I feel like you've entered a different club. Like in a weird way, because like, it unlocks something. It's like it's the big achievement I think a lot of cartoonists really want to do. And
Right.
so being able to do that, you know, I really do think sets you apart. And I don't mean in like some snotty way. It's not like I'm somebody special, but it's like it's kind of like finishing the biggest marathon that you can as a cartoonist. And so if you can do that, then it's like the next one's going to be quicker, you know?
Yeah.
But I will say, like, there is value to like starting smaller, for sure, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to be able to complete something, you know? If you're at that point where, you know, I was just a knucklehead. The first thing I tried to complete was a graphic novel.
Well, you and I are built similar because I'm kind of like the same way where, like, this was my first graphic novel, and I stupidly was like, I'm going to do it in, and I think we're in similar boats here, but I was like, I'm going to do it in full color. I'm going to I'm going to make this like epic story.
Yeah.
And, you know, 5 years later, I was like, oh, yeah, the next thing I do is not going to take 5 years. But instead of like digital lettering, I'm going to do hand lettering. And I'm going to, you know, do a crazy. Yeah, I'm going to do a bunch of cross hatching that takes forever to do instead of doing it the Marvel way and keeping it simple. And like all of this stuff that was like, you know, of course, that's another 5 years. So I'm hoping this one will be like 2, you know?
Oh, okay. I was kind of wondering about that.
Yeah, I mean, because I've batched everything. And so like really everything's mapped out. I have everything roughed out. I have the script finished. So really at this point it's just drawing and inking and that's it. Like
nice.
And that's all I have to do for like the next, you know, foreseeable part. The only thing that's going to slow this down is the other graphic novel that has a much tighter deadline.
Gotcha.
But that's done looser too. So hopefully,
really inspired by your pace at this, you know, that where you have a nice groove, like you've got a time that you work on it, you're able to talk and draw at the same time, you know, so you kind of get the socializing in, you know. It's just really, it's been fun. It's been inspirational to me.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's
like I could, and part of that is you've built it. This in, you know, your progress on this work built it into your life. You know, you've made room for it and made it work within the, you know, framework of your life. So that's kind of what I think is important.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to do it, really. I mean, you can't. It's just like exercise or whatever. If you don't like, you know, set time aside where you're just like, hey, this is when I exercise. Like,
yeah, it's,
you know,
you to blow off.
You're never gonna exercise, you know. And the same with comics. FRM LSAT 2FSIRT. I wish I knew what.
First is that the.
From last to first. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at these handles. Where it's like really, that's awesome. That's a cool name. On Twitch said, if you could change one thing about the artist and illustration community, what would it be and why? Ooh, good question. What do you think, Paul?
I don't know. I mean, I like it.
Yeah, I like the artist and illustration community. I'd say for like young illustrators, I always give this advice, and I think Paul would agree, but it's like, especially with commercial art, just treat yourself as a business. That would save a lot of headache for younger artists, where it's like, you know, when you work for people, use contracts, quote fair rates for yourself, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then in the comics community, I wouldn't change much, but I'd like say like if your group is based on like just hating stuff, then like maybe that's a bad group, you know. Because it's like one of the things I liked about like even meeting Paul, I met him through Jim, and it's like Jim, when he was having like artist meetups and stuff, was like particularly one of the things that was unique about that group, other than like other like LA artist meetups, was the fact that like somehow he picked out people who were like interested and passionate about what they were doing and were making their own creative visions happen, but like weren't focusing their whole time just like belittling other artists. And I think that's really good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll talk some crap, you know, sometimes about, but I feel like if that's like the common bond, like if Paul and I were hanging out just because we equally hate something, I feel like that's not as tight of a bond as like a bond based on things we like and things we're trying to do with our lives, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I quickly learned, okay, when I decided that I wanted to actually make something and have something to show, uh, I wasn't as good as I thought I was. There's always somebody better.
Always.
And so if you're measuring as an artist, if you're measuring somebody, you're measuring yourself against somebody else. That's a real recipe to be unhappy,
Yeah.
Whereby if you look at, other great artists and you're inspired by them, then that's going to help you, and it's going to help you. That's when I became, inspired by people, and I was happy to talk to them. And I'm not, I just look at your artwork and I'm like, this is great for you, and it's
Yeah.
for me too, because now I know you and I can talk to you about it. I mean, but you have to get over that thing where you compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
I always do take a minute to be jealous, for a minute and go, man, you're so good, stop it. But then you just, you got to get over it and grow up. And so.
Yeah. And I think like, it's a fine line too, because it's like we kind of have to compare a little bit if we want to get better, so it's like
yeah, and that's where you can get inspired, I think.
Yeah, but I think the inspiration route is way more effective because the destructive thing with the compare game is like you'll level up and then inevitably just be like worse than someone else, like or you'll feel like, I've definitely found this, in my art career where I'd have this goal. Like I remember as an illustrator, one of my big goals in illustration was like, just because they were a great client, I was like, one day I'm going to do something for Scholastic,
Okay, yeah.
That was a big goal. And I didn't even want to do like kid art or anything like that. I just wanted that name on my client list,
Right.
And then I remember getting hired to do like stuff for like Highlights magazine for them. And I was like, oh, that goal's achieved. And then the next day, just having like 50 other goals hop up. Like it didn't feel like, oh, I've arrived. It was like,
right. Yeah.
It was just like, oh, the next thing. And I kind of realized like it's sort of like that. I think I'm guessing, I'm guessing it would work that way. Like, I mean, obviously I'd love to at some point in my career as an artist, like get an Eisner, right? We'd all like all cartoonists would like an Eisner.
Right.
But I bet the guys who got Eisners were like, well, now I want an Oscar. Like, it's just whatever it is. Like, I don't know if it's enough because I've met like
it's never enough.
Yeah, I've met like animators who won an Annie, which is like the Oscar of animation, other than the Oscar, and they're just seeking after the next thing. It's like I don't think a rival or a competition is always there. It's good to be fueled by ambition, but it's just like which side of the force do you want to go on? Like I'll choose the light side.
Yeah.
I have flown in the dark side before, especially as a younger artist. I think I was way more competitive.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, especially like fresh out of college with like a BFA or whatever, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna destroy the art world and take everybody down, be the best. But you start realizing, like, as the pond grows into an ocean, and then that grows into like a whole planet, like it's just there's no way,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never even flew. I never even walked on the dark side. I mean, it wasn't working for me at all. I just wasn't doing anything. You can't. It was just all talk.
Yep.
So, I hope that answers from last to first questions.
Yeah, I hope so.
So my comic that I started on here, I've been thinking about doing this for years, and so I'm not like Jim Lujan, who's got he's great because he's got a good method down he can create a short film. He can create a 10-minute one, a 5-minute one, a 20-minute one. He's done it all. He's done a ton of them.
Yeah,
a ton of stories. You talk to him and he's like, oh yeah, I was thinking about this character. He'll just make up characters right on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was great. And he's like, not even going to use it. He's just like joking around. But you got to put that in one of your films. It's like,
Yeah, like 90, like a lot of people don't realize, like every film Jim has with like a background character, there's like a whole movie he has in his head that he can just like recite on the spot for like every ancillary character, like in
Right.
his stories.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm not like that. For me to come up with a story is excruciating.
yeah,
So, like for my graphic novels, I mean, there's two of them, and I've been wanting to do a third one on the same, character, and it's just a lot of work for me. It's just excruciating. So what I did was, and I've been thinking about doing this for years. I like maps, and so as a kid, I would make up maps, just um, just make up stuff, draw oceans and the land and name it stuff and did it
yeah,
right.
totally same here.
Okay, so that's all I did.
Especially because as a young kid too, I was really into fantasy.
Right.
And like fantasy novels, like you just didn't have a good fantasy novel unless it had maps.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yep. That's where I'm going with this. So what I did was I'm like, okay, and I've been thinking about doing this for years, so I finally did it. I drew a map and put on there all the different, nations and da da da. And sure enough, I started developing stories around the places and the people that I imagined that lived in this world on the map, And so I'm working on my first one.
Oh,
And,
sweet.
yeah, and it's the stories and it's only a 16-page self-contained. Well, I want to do it kind of like episodic TV,
Yeah.
um, but a 16-page story. It'll have sort of a tie through to the next one, but it's also will have sort of a complete story in and of itself. So anyway, that's what I'm doing, and
I, I think that's a cool method to do it. Like Corey has talked, he has a story that he wants to do.
mhm,
And I keep trying to encourage him to do it because it's like he doesn't like the idea of like being stuck with like 100 and something page book,
right,
just
yeah,
looming over him where he's carving away at it and it's years of time.
you're right,
Um, but he has this like grand narrative that he came up with, and it's like in this fantasy world, and he knows the rules of it. And like, I keep trying to kind of encourage him to do, because I'm like a drug pusher when it comes to graphic novels. I want everyone to get into this terrible habit of
right,
cartooning. But it's like, yeah, I think like he could feasibly do it by doing like short stories within this broader world. So you have this
right,
like bigger epic narrative, but you can tell it in
mhm,
like little chunks with
right,
different characters all throughout. I think that's a great structure because then you're building short stories that can inevitably be like a long, broader story with like a sweeping narrative.
yeah, yep. And if I ever get to that sweeping narrative, if I ever get to the end of it, cool. If I don't, that's fine too. So,
Well, I
uh,
think that's great. Are you gonna leave in like little bits that could be mined for future stories as well in there?
right, yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah.
That's good.
So, like the character, uh, the main character in this particular one, he sets off, he conquers the beasts, and then he sets off to go home, and then so I'll have a little last page, of the people at home expecting him to be home, or and anticipating him coming home, and then the bad guy uh, says he's never going to make it home, you know, so. And then that's where, so that's kind of like the cliffhanger that could lead to more, but it doesn't necessarily lead to the next story. Like you said, it's the overarching. It's the what do you call it? This tie through or whatever.
That's awesome. Are you gonna do? Is this like in a fantasy
Right.
environment?
Yeah. So the deal is, there's, like the Earth has been like the dinosaurs went extinct probably, or maybe from a meteor impact.
Yeah.
many million years ago. And this has probably happened, many, many times over the last however many million years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, who knows? So what it is I just found like some sort of, time capsule that somebody put in the ground that took me back to one of those times before, so this civilization had developed and before it was destroyed. So it was very developed, but completely different than today. You know what I mean? But it just so happens that everybody spoke English and they were humans. So
Oh, okay. So it's like pre the meteor hitting, and then it's like way more developed and civilized than we knew.
yeah, but well, it's kind of, but it's not. We don't. Okay, so we don't have like electricity,
Yeah.
but you have different animals, right?
Yeah.
Some of the same animals, but you also have different animals. You have different kinds of humans. You have beasts and humans with blue skin and just all kinds of made up stuff. So
That sounds fun.
yeah, right. So I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, essentially it's fantasy. Like Lord of the Rings or something like that.
That's rad. Fantasy is like it can be a real trap too sometimes, because I've talked about this problem before, but it's like I know a lot. I've known a lot of people in my life who have like the Dungeons and Dragons manual of like their entire world, with all the logistics and everything.
Okay.
And they've worked on this thing for like years, and it's like this just Bible's worth of just stuff, like languages and characters
right.
And they never are going to make the book.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah. I know. I understand. I don't think I'm going to fall into that trap.
Yeah, so I think your approach is really healthy, because I think a lot of people fall into like Tolkien's Silmarillion trap, right? Where they all think they're Tolkien, but it's like, but yeah, Tolkien made the book, like,
right.
And also he was like a weird, like, genius, like linguistics guy, so that's why he like spent a long time writing, like coming up with languages and stuff, right?
Yeah, right. And I don't, I'm not delusional, right? I mean, my map's pretty elementary, and I'm not trying. I'm not trying to do all that. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to have some fun.
Yeah, and you can build a really cool, crazy, complicated world just by going a story at a time, and then the laws for the world will kind of build themselves as you like add stories to it.
Yeah, so I got, like, for example, I got one idea for it where these falcons, they take messages from so like the guy that's up in far away from home and went on his little adventure, right? He can send a message home by writing it down and giving it to this falcon. And he has some, I don't know, like not coins, but like something that the falcon, so he's got enough little beans or some sort of, acorn or something that he can give to the falcon, that falcon knows to take it home, to take it where this guy wants it to go. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So that's how they communicate.
That's a good one, because that's one of the hard ones with fantasy, especially in a big world, where it's like there needs to be some method of communication where you can have like, intercontinental stuff,
Yeah, right. And it can be pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a communications network, these birds.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. That's just one little simple idea.
So I'm excited, man. So who's your I don't want to get too many spoilers or whatever, but like who's your main character for like this 16 pager?
Mortimer the Mountain.
The Mountain. I love it. Is he like a big dude?
Huh?
Is he like a huge dude, or is
right? Exactly.
Nice.
I'll show you a picture of him here. Hang on, let me see. It's the first picture of him right here. Let me see if I can show you this. Thanks for hearing me out on this one.
No. I'm excited, man. Is this your first like high fantasy one?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like the other ones were like detective fiction, right?
Yeah. This is the guy. See him there?
Yeah.
He's coming over the ride and he's headed to town. He's got 3 heads, 3 beast heads that he's vanquished these beasts. So he's
Nice.
carrying them on a stick, you know.
It's badass. That looks awesome.
Thanks. So yeah, it should be fun.
That sounds fun. I've always kind of wanted to do like a fantasy thing. At some point I will.
So I've got another project that I really want to do, but I have a friend that he's a comedian and he's going to write it. And similar approach to it where we can do short stories and, you know, just break off little pieces at a time.
Yeah, I think that's a good method.
A kid comedian that travels through space and tells jokes. So, anyway, Hey, Jim.
It's
Hello, guys.
Jimmy McLuhan.
Hello, top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning.
Top of the hour.
I
don't know if you saw this, but you're right on theme. I started this by saying I have this limited edition series Irish Red. So,
well, just by psychic nature, Paul Pate and I had a Shamrock Shake on the same day, and I have one a year. That's a tradition. In fact, when the first time I met Paul in person in Iowa, I picked him up from the airport, and immediately we went and got Shamrock Shake. Do you remember, Paul?
Yeah.
And then we got the Shamrock Shakes after eating them. We were like, we were diabetic coma. But
is the Shamrock Shake like? Are we talking about the one at McDonald's?
Yeah, the one.
Yeah. Where it's like mint ice cream, and then they just pour like a ton of like Oreo flakes in there.
Oh, right? You got the Shamrock McFlurry. You're talking about the Shamrock McFlurry.
Oh, this is different. Okay, what's the Shamrock Shake? You have to.
That has leprechaun semen in it.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Wait, can I say leprechaun on this show?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that leprechauns break TOS.
Wait, real quick. There's 3 things I want to say. Okay, number 1 is, Paul, I watched your interview with, by the way, Geekdom Empowers. Everybody listening to this, go to YouTube and type in Geekdom, like a kingdom, Geekdom Empowers. And it's a show hosted by a really, really super nice guy.
Yeah, Guy Hassan.
And super nice guy, no pun intended. And he has the full interviews online now. Like Paul's is on there, and I watched it today. Like I hadn't seen the full video before, and I was drawing and listening to Paul today.
I didn't know the videos were up. That's awesome.
Yeah, one of the great things about that interview, Paul, is that you started showing him your Pulp Fiction in those posters in the background.
Yeah,
and you were reading them and reading the quotes and everything, and I'm looking at him going, "Man, those are awesome." And then you go, "Yeah." And then you waited for his reaction. He's like, I'm kind of a love-hate with Quentin Tarentino. Like he totally wasn't into it. But that's okay though. At least he's honest.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a moment like that too, where I was like all excited because he's like really into like old school fantasy novels and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, you like Bradbury?" And he's like, "I can't stand Bradbury." You know, it's like, "Oh no!" Like, but I will say, Guy's really interesting as an interviewer, and he gets something interesting out of everybody. Yeah. Like, interesting is an underselling of it. He gets strangely in depth with people.
Yeah,
and it's really fascinating. And he's had a bunch of our mutual friends on.
Yeah.
It's just like he had Ralph on, who's like I had freelance for me and went to school with, and like Chris K, and like just Gary's been on there. Like
Gary's been on there. Scott's been on there. Corey's finally been on there.
Mm-hmm.
Javier Hernandez was on there. Dave Baker was on there. Paul's wife and kids were all on there separately. He doesn't know about it. So it's kind of crazy. Yeah. But hey, the other thing I wanted to tell you too, because I was listening right now, and I was like, damn it, I wish I was on the air right now so I could say this. But I thought it'd be really cool if, Paul, you were talking about, I just made a map, and through this map, I got all these ideas for all these fictional characters and places and events that happen. Like, you just really go into it, and you're like, there's a land, there's blue people, and they fight. And then Josh asks, do you mind if we could see the map? And he goes, yeah, sure. And it's just a map of Tennessee.
You know what's funny? One of my favorite, when I was a
Colorado, it's like a square.
Yeah, when I was a geeky.
No, it's literally a map. Paul found a map of Tennessee, and he's like, I've never heard of this place.
It's Tennessee. Yeah, like when I was a kid, like when I was in like 7th grade, I was like a huge fantasy nerd, and I got really into this this whole series of books. And now I am blanking out on the author. He's like a famous writer.
Larry Flint.
Larry Flint. Exactly. I got really heavily into that, especially the spreads. Like, they were really interesting.
Easy there, cowboy.
But oh my gosh, now I can't remember.
I'm sorry.
The Xanthe Trilogy. So it was like there was this whole world of Xanthe, and it's Piers Anthony, and he was like this writer who like wrote these amazing fantasy books like that were almost like refined and perfected for like 7th grade kids. And I was a 7th grade boy reading it and stuff. But his whole fantasy world, when you looked at the map, it literally looked like Florida. And then it just looked like all the names of the villages were like bad puns making fun of different regions in Florida.
Well, I just figured, you said his name was Piers Anthony?
Piers Anthony, yeah.
Well, that's where Zan comes from. It has to be, because you said Piers Anthony. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, because the Xanthe thing. But anyhow, it's like it was just an incredible thing.
By the way,
Philip Chandler said there's a Shamrock McFlurry, and I will confirm that. I've had it, and it's a good McFlurry.
Josh, by the way, Larry Flint also makes stories that are for 7th grade fantasies as well. So.
That's true. I think both pedal in the same ways. But it was funny because it was like he was one of those fantasy authors who literally just took like that section of the U.S. and then like Cuba and like different areas of like the world, and they just kind of named them different things. It was like, this is my fantasy.
Paul, you guys were talking about making maps earlier, Paul. That completely struck a chord with me. That's exactly what I used to do when I used to make up.
Like you've done the same thing, but your map is L.A.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yes, and Tennessee.
Movies, you know.
So when I was a kid, one of the best projects that we had in class, around 5th grade is when I discovered that I was like, wow, like not everybody's as creative. Mrs. Bloomfield was my teacher. She had a lot to do with me like taking things seriously. And she assigned us an assignment where we had to create a map, our own map of our own country or whatever, our own land. And so I created one, I think it was called like Luhania or something like that.
Nice.
And I got the other thing I was thinking, this is kind of dark, but I was thinking, wouldn't it be funny if Paul went into this long story about all of the blue people and all of this in this fantasy land, and I could do whatever I want and everything. And then the rulers of this land are the pure white people.
So suddenly we realize he's like a white supremacist who's like trying to advocate for
they control the blue people.
Like, and then
what he does
every time he starts diverging there, like what would happen is like I'd come in with like Paul, yeah, I mean obviously like we're just talking fantasy here, and then he'd like will just further clarify until it gets worse and
but
worse.
He doesn't call it white. He calls it the ivory people.
Yeah.
And they make the blue people and the green people fight each other. And the ivory that's horrible. I'm sorry, Paul. No, Paul, I'll make up for that with this. This is genuine, for real, from the heart. I had like this flash of a business idea that like maybe I should suggest this to Paul. And this is normally where a joke would come in, but this is real. So, Paul, I know that you're really dying. I mean, like I can hear it that you want to get back into graphic novels and illustration. Mm-hmm. And I'm always the evil voice in your ear going, do animation.
Yeah.
But I just thought of this, Paul. What if you full on went back into graphic novels, graphic stories, headlong, but you made animated bumpers for all of them?
Yeah, I love it.
You could scratch 2 itches
Yeah.
with 1 stone.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've done a little bit of that, I think.
Definitely an ivory stone too, because the blue stones and
of
the
course.
other stones, like they're too busy warring with each other and trying to.
You really can't trust the blue stones.
Yeah, exactly. The blue stones really what they want is just to be at all out war with the ivory stones, so that they
The
can
blue
just
stones
dominate.
are always asking for a handout from the ivory people, and I'm telling.
And look, the good old ivory cops, like they're just pulling over the blue stones all the time because the blue stones commit more crimes,
They would just comply.
What's your story called, Paul? It's called MKGA, MKGA, Make Kingdom Great Again. And
oh my gosh, I'm sorry. That would actually be a really funny comic where it's like a fantasy world written by like some crazy, like extreme, like.
And if anybody knows Paul, you'll know that this is the furthest thing from Paul's personality that I could ever come up with. That's why we're attacking him.
They're funny.
But Paul, I thought, if
yeah, that'd be awesome, fun to do.
I talked to the Animation Council, and we'll give you our blessing, our independent blessings, if you were to do that. Then we won't bother you about doing a movie again or a short.
I'm also working on my samurai.
No, yeah, I saw that. It looks incredible. Are you able to share your screen and show a clip of it?
Yeah, I kind of want to see the.
Wait till you see the shot
over here.
Some of it's on Instagram too. Follow Paul on Instagram, everybody out there. Are you at Paul Pate?
Pate_Paul.
I always thought it was Pate. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
And don't spell out underscore.
Yeah.
Right.
But Paul's stuff is definitely worth checking out. Like Paul, and again, like it's funny because Paul, you're like, oh, this is like it's just a 16-pager, so it's. And the funny thing is, you'll probably be done with it in like a week with your speed, man.
Oh, Paul, you're on. I forgot you're not on StreamYard. You're like me. You're just using your computer. I thought you could share your screen or something, but
no, I think I could.
Are you on StreamYard?
But I'm not. Like I said, my animation project is over there on that computer.
Alas,
the old dog over there.
So Josh, you tell Paul the big news for the 24th, who your guest is. And it's not me.
Oh, that's right. Well, I'm hoping. I'm nervous to announce it because I don't know. I hope Lonnie shows him, but
he will.
Yeah,
he will.
But I think Lonnie's gonna come on. So on Artcasters next time. Yeah, I've been trying to get him on for a while. I honestly think Lonnie's a little shy with that kind of thing.
So I'm going to gather some questions from some of Lonnie's friends. Paul, I'll be hitting you up. I'm going to gather questions up for Lonnie, and that'll be an excuse. Because Lonnie, I swear to God, I didn't say, Lonnie, have me on the show. He says, well, I'll go on if you go on. So, but
I think it's perfect to have you both on. Honestly.
That'll be an excuse for me to be on, and I could read the questions, and maybe I'll send them to Corey or whoever. You could put a screenshot of the question up on the screen or whatever. But I'll read the questions to Lonnie, and I'll try to gather as many as I can.
I will say, we had Lars on too. He's friends with Lonnie, right? But it's like,
oh yeah, Lars is great.
One of the best questions, and I'd love to ask Lonnie this too. And it is kind of one of those like, where do you come up with your ideas for a writer? But I feel like with humor, everybody's got like their weird kind of strategies to like developing like bits or like writing down bits and like trying to come up with like things that are funny. And I think we should definitely get Lonnie on that topic, like of like how he's generating ideas and documenting them and stuff. Cause it's just a good thing. Like Lars talked about like some game he has where it's like 4 words that you kind of mix together and then you make like this just generically weird, crazy thing and make a joke out of it.
I always tell Lonnie, and I'll probably say this on the show, but I've always said, Lonnie, your joke is like you take a joke that's already bizarre, and then you add a caption to it that is just a whole different level of bizarre, you know?
No, I love it. Yeah, he'll go territories that like you really think it's going to be like an obvious thing. Yeah, and then you look at the image and you're like, huh, it's kind of close to like a joke I'm familiar with. And then the caption, and it's like, he took like a direction a lot of comedians go, but then just swerved a totally different way.
Right.
And it's hilarious and absurd, but it also makes like this genius sense. Like, I don't understand how he does it. I think Lonnie's incredible.
Are you hosting it, Josh?
Yes.
Cool. Are you going to go with like the benefits of having a weird whacked out sense of humor or something like that?
That can work. Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to call it, like
that's a good common thread that because he has a weird sense of humor, but I love his weird sense of humor.
The great thing about Lonnie too is like in person he has that sense of humor. It's like it's really toned back, but like anytime I've been in like a group setting with Lonnie, he'll just kind of turn to me and say something that just kills. Like it's like it's the funniest thing I've heard like the whole day. You don't
expect it. It's like because he says it very dry. Like he's got a really like dry approach. But yeah, I want to ask Lonnie how he feels about Paul's new story, The Return of the Pure Ivory Kingdom.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Oh.
Why don't you wait till I'm there?
Wait, so then Jim, he'll be like, okay, and like the characters, they're gonna be like their costumes. It's like almost like an executioner's like hood, but definitely like ivory in color.
Yeah,
like we don't want them to look like executioners,
right? So, like an ivory Jedi.
Yeah,
with the hoods. Yeah, I like that. They should have some kind of emblem. Like something with fire. I don't know. We'll think about that later. So, but hey, speaking of, that has nothing to do with this transition. Paul's coming to town in April. Josh.
Oh, sweet.
Maybe in Vegas, so maybe I'll drive by that brewery that you're talking about there.
Oh, I will say, if you're at all in the AV, I'll meet you at that brewery. It's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to have I'm using Josh's live stream to pen my social calendar. So I talked to Scott, or what was it, yesterday or today or after? Yeah.
I'm excited about that though. It's like weird, but I feel like we have a good like interweb group that's not full of crazy people, or at least we're the right kind of crazy, I guess.
So I'll tell you. And I've been involved with art groups before. And for example, the Fanboy Radio crew, those guys are still my friends to this day. But the difference between what I like about the Artcaster crew is everybody's very independent. So it's like we can get together and then we just go.
Yeah.
Not codependent?
Well, we're codependent. Independently codependent. But it's like I really do like the fact that how we can get together and we're all really very like ourselves with each other. Nobody has to worry about hurting anybody's feelings.
Yeah.
So we all try to, but we don't have to worry about it. And then but then we just go off and do our own things. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Me three.
Kind of like it's like when we get together, we all put our keys in a hat.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody picks a key, and that's who you go home with. That's kind of how it is. But artistically speaking. I also I made this announcement on Patreon, but I haven't made it in.
Oh my goodness. Wait, Jim, Patreon. You have a Patreon? Tell us about your Patreon.
Patreon. If you go to jimluhan.com, I have a Patreon, and I don't care how much or how little you give. It's just the thought that counts. But don't give me a thought, because I can't really buy anything with a thought.
I like that.
All my patrons get early access to everything. And today I posted a bunch of pictures from Sugar Machine, the new film I'm working on.
Yeah, I like it. You've also posted, I think you posted this outside of there too, but I think before you posted it outside, you posted some soundtrack.
Yeah, the theme song. A few weeks ago, I put it on Patreon.
Which
And-
I have to say, Jim, I keep having this experience whenever you post those things where I'll be like sitting on the couch next to my wife and then I'll put it on and she'll give me this look like, what the hell is that? And I'm just like, I'm rolling laughing. Like it's just the funniest thing I've ever heard. I don't know what it is about every time. It just,
It's
Yeah.
because I'm trying, Josh. I'm not trying to be funny, and you're hurting my feelings.
I love it though. I love how
Um,
much you guys commit.
You and I,
It's the
one day,
best.
we're going to do a folk group. Oh,
Yeah, we should.
speaking of, one of my goals in life, I probably have 4 goals, and this is one of them, is to get Joshua to do a recording with a drum machine. That is my goal, because he was just like, no. I'm like, Josh, try it, man. The first one's free. Try it. You'll like it. So
I
even
should.
if you need
I
me
should.
to give you a beat, I'll send you a beat, and then you can make a song to it.
I like it. I could do. It's funny. I have kind of talked about this with like the guy I'm in a band with, where he has like a bunch of like meaty drum things and stuff. And we were talking about just jokingly like making like an industrial album because it would be funny and awesome.
It'd probably be the one thing that makes $1 million for you to.
Yeah. And then you have
Around.
But I think that would be fun. I need to get back on recording music. This is one of the frustrating things about being a person who likes music. And like one of the things I think that's brilliant about what you've done with your art, Jim, is like you found a thing that like encompasses everything you like, you know? So it's got like acting and comedy and music and animation and like drawing, like everything's in there. So you know,
That's
whereas
amazing.
like
Just find a way to work black tar heroin in.
yeah,
I'm set.
that's
So-
true. Are you trying to like out shock like our previous guest Richard?
I'm trying to
Fairbanks?
relate to the Antelope Valley, man.
If it's the AV, you got to just talk meth, man.
AV.
That's the name of the game out here. It is. I'm not, literally not kidding. Like this is one of those weird areas where, like, if it ever gets in the news, it's like some weird murder, or it's like a methamphetamine factory was, you know, busted. It's like that's what the AV gets news for. Which is funny because like the area I live in is not that bad, except for like the 50 murders that happen every day. But you know, it's not super bad.
So that get you to the drum machine, get Paul to make bumpers for his cartoon, his graphic novels, which you kind of done, and stop the war in Ukraine. Those are the 3 things I'm working on.
I like that. Are you doing like special ops on the war in Ukraine? Like,
Yes, I am. With my animation, it's indirectly related, but somehow I'm going to help them. Oh,
The
okay,
guy-
so here's the big announcement. Did I already make the big announcement?
I
I started to say with Patreon. On Patreon, I made it.
Oh yeah. You didn't finish. Go ahead.
So the big announcement.
Wait. Anytime you do a big announcement, I have to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an exclusive announcement from Jimmy McLuhan regarding his Patreon, which goes under Jim Luhan. Jim, go ahead. Yeah, it's exclusive, guys.
Exclusive. Today, while I was watching Artcasters with the beautiful Gary Hodges, I finished the artwork for Sugar Machine. So I am officially done with the artwork. All done. So now I'm in animation mode starting tomorrow.
Dude, that's really good news because your animation mode doesn't take as long as the assets, right?
I'll be done in like 40 minutes probably. No, I'm gonna give myself. I always said it was gonna come out in April. I'll probably be towards the end of April. However, since I don't have really a set deadline, if it comes out in May, I'll have it come out in May. But it shouldn't be longer than that. This week I'm recording with Lonnie. He's gonna do a voice for me.
Hell yeah.
So right before, not right before his Artcasters episode, but like a day before, 2 days. What day is Artcasters? Is it Thursday this week?
Thursday, yeah, I believe
right.
this week. Yeah,
I'm recording with Lonnie before that, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun. This one should be a good one. And tonight I was going to do music tonight when I got home, but we got home way too late. And if I start doing music at 8 o'clock, it's like drinking 5 cups of coffee. I'll be up way too late. I'll do the Paul Pate hours.
yeah.
And I don't want to do the Paul Pate hours.
Yeah, I have the same thing with music. The other thing is I live with a kid and a wife, and like they get kind of annoyed if they're hearing like guitar work and stuff. And if I'm like if I'm like recording singing, it's like quite often when you're recording and you're singing, you'll like scream and not even realize you're I can imagine like Jim at like 4 a.m. being like, "Boy, you think you know me?" Like it's just yeah.
I'm very, very respectful. The other thing too is you're right about the guitar stuff. You have to budget that. You have to say, well, because you don't use keyboards. The keyboards can plug straight in to the computer, so that's quiet. Yeah,
that's true.
But if I'm doing guitars like that, like or recording acoustic guitar, I'm not going to do that at night. In the night. You know,
just try it, Jim. Just try it. You know,
I'd like to stay married, please.
I like that. That's cool. That's good news, man. I'm excited about it. I think anyone out there watching right now who has not dipped their toes into the Luhan verse, you guys need to like be watching Jim's stuff. Like, you know, check him out on YouTube. It's amazing stuff.
Thank you. Have no idea exactly how long Sugar Machine will be, but I don't know. It's probably gonna be like 20 minutes.
You know, I've heard you say that, and then you've made like, you know, close to feature length epics sometimes when you've been like, oh, it'll probably be like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like you said that with like Lars Lazarus, and then it ended up being this. And Cherries in the Snow was the first one I remember it being like it was gonna be short. And then
Cherries in the Snow was going to be episodic. It was going to be 3 episodes, and then each episode was going to be 5 minutes long. But then the first episode ended up, I don't know, it didn't work. So I'm like, just forget it. I just made a 20-minute movie. And then this isn't the chronological order, but All That Glitters was a series. And each episode, by the way, that noise is my cat running around under the couch right now.
Well done, cat.
She wants to be on Artcasters. All That Glitters was a thing I did that was episodic. It was like 20 episodes. And all I did with those, this was the goal from the beginning, is I assembled them as a movie. And I put little connectors. I animated little scenes that kind of connect them, so it felt more like a movie. And that one's like an hour long. That ended up being an hour long. And then Lars Lazarus, same thing. I tried to do it again. By the end of Lars Lazarus, I realized I don't ever want to do that again, because I should have just made Lars Lazarus a movie to begin with. And then Infinity Pool was a movie that was 20 minutes long. Or 20 something minutes. No, it was almost 30 actually. And
Infinity Pool, by the way, I feel like I'm blanking out on your friend's name, who's the actor who did the main character of
Charlie Rossman.
Charlie Rossman, and I've met him. He was nice
he's
dude.
Awesome. Yeah,
I think I met him and I had a drink or two with him at your premiere.
He's awesome. Yeah.
But I have to say, like, for voice acting in a Jim Luhan, like that particular one just is like on a whole other level. It's insane.
Which one?
Check it out.
Which one?
The Infinity Pool.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
I just feel like his performance in that is like, just, I don't know. It's hilarious. It's amazing.
And
I mean, in everything he's great, but I was just saying, like, that one feels like a real, like,
so with Infinity Pool, oh gosh, this turned out to be like, I'm sorry, Paul.
No, I'm loving it, dude. I'm drawing too.
It turned out to be the Jim Luhan hour. I'll just say this real quick. Infinity Pool, there's 2 things about it. Is one, the music in Infinity Pool, especially anything with vocals on it or acoustic guitar, most of the acoustic guitar, is my cousin Mike and I. And my cousin Mike used to live with me in my formative years, and we recorded, we recorded under the name Big Brother, and we had like 400 songs. I'm not kidding. I have a list of them. We recorded between 1984 and 1988. So in those 4 years, we recorded 400 songs. And but the music you hear in Infinity Pool, like the lead, there's a song called "There Is a Dream." That's a Big Brother song. That's literally, we just took it and re-recorded it for the thing. So the songs for Big Brother, if ever I dig into that catalog, are really good. They're really, really good. And they're some of my favorite music I've ever done. And there's so many of them. And I'll probably use more in the future in different projects. But that's what I really liked about Infinity Pool too, is the music was like, it scratched an itch that I wanted to do for so long, that style of music.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the acting that especially Charlie Rossman did, and Tom Racine.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Tom Racine's amazing. The acting that they did is like acting. It's like really good acting. It's not just character like over the top. It's really, really good acting. So a few films before that, I realized if I put a little bit of heart and emotion into the cartoons, it works. They work really well, because I really don't have any interest in doing something that just hits people over the head and is wacky all the time. And, I want it to have a little bit of heart, but I also want you to laugh because you don't know why you're laughing. It's just funny. Yeah, because like Corey says, and he nailed it, I don't have punchlines. I don't know what a punchline is. So
yeah, I think that like to pull off that kind of humor too, it's like there is a certain sensitivity to like this is what I like about good humor in that style, which is like if you have to have empathy for your characters, even the worst of the characters. Like if you approach them with empathy, it makes it like it makes the humor funny. Whereas if you're just doing like stereotypes and tropes and they're just flat and there's no depth or empathy for them, it's just kind of like it's like that first level joke that's easier to get to. And it I don't know, it just doesn't hit as hard or as well, I don't know.
I think it's a lot like Pulp Fiction or Quentin Tarantino movies, in that you're laughing at something that's inappropriate, like this shouldn't be funny, but you find yourself laughing. What just happened wasn't funny, but it was presented in a funny way.
Which is how I felt when Guy was like, "I'm not a big fan," and you were like, "I was laughing, but it wasn't funny."
Awkward laugh, uncomfortable humor.
I said one time on Artcasters, Paul, that I've been chasing the Tarantino dragon for like 25 years or whatever. But Pulp Fiction was definitely a huge influence on me. Not directly, like I want to do people pointing guns at each other, or movies all about hitmen, but the whole universe thing completely like that. Just actually, that started with Star Wars. Right. That Star Wars, I realized that this is in a universe, like, and a character can come back and be in it before any of the prequels and all that stuff. I realized that Star Wars has a cool universe. But what I really liked about Tarantino's is that there are things in Tarantino movies that are not mentioned, like you have no idea unless you know of. Like Marcellus Wallace is mentioned in Reservoir Dogs.
Right.
But in Pulp Fiction, they don't go, "You remember when they were talking about me in Reservoir Dogs?"
And I also see an influence in stuff like Big Kahuna Burger, where it's like just those little details, like the little the props and sets. And for me, like when I see your stuff, if I look for Tarantino influence, it's also like lighting and setting.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, because I feel like you really pull a lot of that from maybe not, but it feels like
that's something that people don't talk about in Tarantino movies. They don't talk about the lighting. Tarantino, in my opinion, has some, if not the best lighting, some of the best lighting I've ever seen in any film. Like I think his lighting's incredible, and people don't realize how important that is in his films.
Yeah.
They just look at a scene in a Tarantino film, and you're just a person that's not familiar with film will just it registers in their mind like, wow, this is super legit, like professional. This is really, but they don't realize it's because it's staging and lighting and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought I went back and multiple times watching Pulp Fiction, and my favorite lighting in Pulp Fiction is in the bar when Bruce Willis and John Travolta meet for the first time. Like that bar, the way the bar's lit all red, but then there's blue, and then it's really, really cool. And then there's some other scenes that are lit really well. The whole Honey Bunny scene, the whole scene in the diner, the way that's lit, and the way that blue shirt on Jules pops,
Mhm.
That. You know what other movie?
Whatever happened to Tim Roth, man? Like
he's still around.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, in fact, wasn't he just? I thought he was just in a Tarantino movie not that long ago. Was he in Hateful Eight? I don't know.
Oh, you know what? I think he was. You're right. Yeah.
Or am I thinking of David Lee Roth? Okay.
So good. Okay, I gotta disappear for like 2 seconds. I will be right back.
All right, we're gonna talk about Josh while he's gone.
So talk smack about me, and also let people know where to find your stuff whilst I am disappeared.
Paul, Empire Strikes Back. That was my other movie. The other movie that has great lighting in it.
Oh, really?
I love the lighting in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I think I'm not like a real. I'm one of those that probably didn't note it. Like I'm like, I really like this, but I'm not sure why. Couldn't put my finger on that. It's the lighting. But when you're talking about Pulp Fiction, I was thinking of the bar, the lighting.
Yeah.
What are you looking at, Luca?
I mean, just about every scene in Pulp Fiction, even in the Quentin Tarantino movies that I'm not as a big of a fan of.
Right.
The lighting's incredible. All of them.
Yeah.
I'm really glad. Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah.
I'm so happy that that's his latest film, because that's my second favorite Quentin Tarantino film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought just something about it was magical. I really liked it a lot.
Huh.
Yeah, I know the whole changing history thing is weird.
Yeah.
It is very weird, and it's like, but it just
Glorious Bastards too.
Yeah, but there's just something about it, and it's probably the performances,
Yeah.
I thought it was
good.
Yeah. Inglourious Bastards, not one of my favorites, but it has moments that I like a lot.
Yeah,
I adore that movie, but it's more just like I enjoy the fantasy of Nazis getting mowed down in a movie theater.
Yeah, I mean,
the payoff was so worth it in that movie.
Yeah, and I loved Django until it didn't end.
Yeah, that was a little long, honestly.
Well, what I didn't like about it is that it like you're like, all right, that was a great movie, and you're getting ready to leave, and you're like, oh wait,
Yeah.
40 more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't need any of that.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. It didn't need it.
That was one of my. I would say I like Django and Inglourious Bastards more than I liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was surprised by. I really enjoyed it because of all the character. Like, there's so much like deep character work of like those two main characters.
Yeah.
That I really like. That's what I enjoyed about that movie was like the acting in it was incredible. The performances were incredible. The characters were really like weird and intriguing. And this is the thing I like about Tarantino movies too, is like, even if it's not my favorite, it's always like visually just like one of the most stunning things I've ever seen. Like that movie just visually, like shot for shot, is just like, it's just mind boggling. Like some of those shots,
He's got this thing, and I forget what he calls it, but he's got there's two universes in the Tarantino universe. There's the regular universe, which is Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Inglourious Bastards, and then there's there's the realer than real, he calls it. That's that one, the real one. And then there's, I forgot what he calls the other one, but it's like the cinematic universe, which like Kill Bill and what else? I don't know what else. What other Tarantino movie? Oh, From Dusk Till Dawn and Death Proof. But those are movies, he said, that in the real universe, like Pulp Fiction universe, that those characters would go see those movies.
Oh, God. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I mean, that's stretching it a little bit.
I think what you've done with yours, so for anybody that's watching that hasn't seen Jim Lujan animation, if you go there, and this is what I think, is you could watch a 5-minute film, a 3-minute film, a 10-minute film, all these different films, but they're all set in this LA universe, that is very, very much like Tarantino's universe, or like you said, Star Wars, it's a universe, but it's in this setting that has that vibe, the same vibe to it throughout all your films,
Yeah. So like,
you don't have, it's like it does a lot of work for you, it sets the setting is already set up, you kind of the environment you're in.
I love it because so we went to Cambria and it's a beautiful area and stuff like that. Like Jim, Corey, all of us were hanging out there, and we went to this one bar that's probably the least attractive area of Cambria. It was just this dive bar that has emblazoned gold portraiture of nude women on the walls and stuff. It was just the weirdest. It was just a strange dive bar, and the second we all sat down in there, it had weird just red lighting and stuff in there, and these characters just in there, these guys, you can tell they're the regulars in Cambria, and then they all have their own backstory, right? Where it's this is a guy who lives out in the woods by the ocean who goes to a country dive bar. It's just a weird group of people. And Corey and I both were just this is a Jim Lujan cartoon. We're hanging out with Jim in a Jim Lujan cartoon at this moment.
It was
if there
very
was
meta.
Anywhere on that entire strip that Jim would focus, it would have been that bar. And I love that because even if you're familiar with LA, it's Jim picks the place that's so you've got Cantor's, and then there's a place 2 streets down from Cantor's that's a fake Cantor's that it exists in Hollywood and LA or Pasadena, but it's I love the fact that you pick the liquor store that's 1 street down from the really nice liquor store. It's just, I love that about, I don't know, I love that about the settings where they always feel somewhere you've been, but it's that place you've been and there's something unsettling but hilarious and amazing about it.
I've always thought the side men are more interesting than the hero for the most part, except for Batman and Robin. But Tonto's more interesting than the Lone Ranger. There's a lot of examples of that. But Keith Richards
are not the Ivory People.
The Ivory People. So, but that I don't know. We've talked about this where, okay, if they make a movie for teens and there's 5 characters, they're going to have, now there'll be at least 2 or 3 that, are people of color, which I'm not even saying that's a good thing from a person of color, but they'll have one really good looking white guy and somehow that's going to be the lead. You know what I mean? And I've always thought, why do the leads in movies always have to look like Tom Cruise or why can't it be that other guy? Why can't it be Tracy Morgan as part of a crew and he's the lead romantic interest guy,
Yeah.
And then I don't buy the whole thing that, people won't accept it. Yeah, they will. They will.
Oh yeah.
They will. It's just that they just don't do it.
Yeah.
That's why in my movies, they're all the lead characters would be side characters in other movies because they'd be the character actor or the weird, So I really do. It's always been that way. I've always thought that.
That's awesome.
I like that.
For the
I like that
underdog
approach.
out there.
I like that approach. For sure.
Yeah, yeah. But so tomorrow start the animation, and we'll see where that goes. And
awesome,
Paul Pate, I would like to know where's your progress right now on your project that you're working on.
Right here. Well, I showed you the guy earlier walking with the main Mortimer of the Mountain. Okay, this is my big fear about this one because I'm not a super like high fantasy hardcore person, and so I don't want to come up with a bunch of names like Mortimer of the Mountain, where you're like, that's a corner in my map, is a map of like Florida, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's my biggest fear, like all the cities, and then they're called Diamondville, and
you need a naming convention, Paul.
Yeah. I'm not like Tolkien with making up this whole language and everything. But anyway, there's the Mortimer of the Mountain walking. I colored it, but there's
That's awesome, Paul.
I'm excited about it.
Is this going to be print only, or will it be online?
Yeah, I'll post it online. This is the whole page.
I think if you're doing it in like 16-page chunks, I'd almost like do it on like Webtoons or Tapas or something, because especially if it's fantasy and it's in color, like you probably get a lot of traction like serializing it.
Yeah, I mean, I might. I'm really into Josh. I'm really into the process now. I've gotten into the groove, where the whole I don't have to envision, everybody buying my book or watching it or whatever. I'm kind of gotten over that. So
yeah, I get that. I was just saying I'd probably serialize it just because if it's color and it's fantasy, it's like that has a higher likelihood to draw interest for
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I remember when Tapas first came out. I thought that was really cool, but it's hard to get enough stuff put on there. So over the years, I haven't had anything on it. But and then Webtoons, I've never tried to put anything on there before. So yeah, when I get it done, I'll try to.
I do it with the 16, and then that can be at least a motivation if it does generate some stuff, because then you could be like, oh, I'm going to do 16 more.
Yeah. That if people like it and respond to it, that is the end goal. You do want.
And throw on an animated trailer, and you're done. You're diamonds.
Yeah, I don't want to do one of these where they animate the pictures from the comic, though. I want an actual animation of one of the characters doing it.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Well, your stuff's way more animated than mine. So
I was just talking about that with Paul, where it's there's something thrilling about animation where it's every frame was it's got that wobble to it. It's something really unique and cool. But I also would probably shoot myself if I had to do it.
So I'm finding in conversation, I don't concentrate on the animation in a conversation. That is an area I'm trying to improve a little bit. So I am trying to add a few more subtle movements, but I'm not going to have somebody say, "Where are you going?" With their arms waving and, But I mean, I am trying to improve a little bit on the acting part of it.
Yeah.
But today I drew the character Danny Fingerman jumping over a wall. It was 8 drawings. I did it, and I love doing stuff like that, but not constantly all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Sparingly, but yeah, I think I have an okay knack for that. But I'll tell you, when I get my new computer, I'm going to probably use maybe 24 frames a second. How many are you using, Paul, frames per second?
Well, you see that?
12? Yeah, see? Yeah.
Oh, that's
Maybe I'll use 12 still. I'm using 12 now. That's all my computer can handle. It's 12.
Yeah. Mine goes down. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
that's cool.
Is that a reflection on the bottom?
It's shadows.
Or shadows? Okay. That's awesome.
When they're running, you mean?
Did you just duplicate it and then darken it, or did you draw it?
I drew the shadows. Yeah,
You drew it?
Huh?
You drew it in? You drew the shadow by hand?
Yeah.
I would have just copied it, flipped it, and darkened it. Not lazy.
Yeah. Well,
Or smart.
Didn't think. Yeah, I know. Faster. I didn't think of it at the time. But.
I thought it'd be pretty funny if we looked at Josh's drawing and he's drawing himself as a mountain because he just got an influence. He didn't realize it.
It's true. It's just gonna be like a mountaintop, right? And then it's gonna have like, yeah, that's my new character.
Paul,
So
Josh,
when I get mad, it becomes a volcano.
One more big question. At 11 o'clock my time, so in 7 minutes I'm going to jump off. But I did have a question. Is the reason that you're drawing on ink and paper instead of an iPad, is the reason because it's therapeutic to you, or is it a mixture of things? It's just because you're used to it, or you just enjoy it a lot, or you like the look of it better, or is it a little bit of everything?
So it depends, right? Like it kind of depends on what I'm doing. Like the graphic novel, Not Death But Love, that I'm going to be doing is all going to be digital and all on
an
like,
iPad?
a Wacom tablet. What's up?
On the iPad?
Not on an iPad, but just like, with a Wacom tablet on Photoshop. If the only thing that is really going to be holding me from getting an iPad is until they get the Creative Suite. Like if they get Illustrator working like Illustrator on there and Photoshop working like Photoshop, I'll hop on there. But for me, it's like to learn that new thing would take me more time. But I'm going to be doing the whole thing digitally on that. In this one, it's because it has more to do with like a show I went to years ago that just kind of changed my perspective on like what I wanted to do, at least for this book. Where I went to see like Masters of American Comics. It's like back in like 2005 or 4 or something. It was like at the Hammer. And I was looking at all these originals from like Mouse and like Chris Ware and like all these guys like, Daniel Klaus, like all these dudes that I like really admire. And there's a certain look to it. And I was realizing like, first off, they all work big except for Spiegelman, who works like really small. But it's like they all work on these big pages and they all work really clean and they all do everything traditionally and they all traditionally letter and all of that. And like, I love their work and I love that look. And I was like, well, I want that look, so I should just do that method because that's kind of, there's no like quick way around it, So that's why I went that route. But I was joking with Paul about that too, because it's like my first graphic novel took me 5 years, and then I'm like, okay, I'll simplify it this next time. And then I instead was like, no, I'm going to do cross hatching. I'm going to do everything with brush. I'm going to like hand letter it instead of digitally letter it, because I digitally lettered the last one. And it ended up taking me 5 years. So I'm like, this one I'm hoping only takes about 2, but yeah, I am excited about the next graphic novel which will probably put this on hold when it comes through, but it's like that'll be a fun process because it's like working digitally is quite a lot faster,
And you'll still stream like this?
Yeah, I'll probably stream like this a lot. I have trouble streaming when I'm like drawing, but like if I'm inking, it's not a problem,
Yeah, I got
Do you have an iPad right now, Josh?
I don't have like a good modern iPad.
Well, Josh, I have a surprise for you. Reach under your chair.
Oh my gosh, it's like Oprah. You're like, and Paul, reach under your chair. And anyone in the audience who's watching on stream.
Everyone watching me,
Everyone. But yeah, I have to admit, like, the iPad thing is really appealing and interesting, and I like the mobility part of it. Like, that does sound cool, you know.
When I
It
talked
sounds
to
nice
Dave,
to be able to like sit at a park or something and like.
we were in Newport Beach this morning when I talked to you.
That's awesome.
Not for business, not pleasure. No, we were out there. Leanne had an appointment out there, and so I tagged along with her, and I just waited at a Starbucks for her and worked on. That's when you went live on the live stream today, but I was working on the film there, and then afterwards we went to. There's this huge Barnes and Noble that we went to, and they have this big cafe.
I'd assume you went to the front and said, like, you guys need to be carrying Jacob's apartment.
Yes, I said,
yeah.
It's hand drawn, hand lettered, and you better hand over all the money in the cash register or I'm going to blow your head off. But that's a deep cut, people.
That was good.
Drawing the stuff on the iPad, that's the reason I finished the artwork today. And I was out. We were out and about and having life, and I wasn't stuck, in my studio. I used to think I wanted a studio, just as, a studio. I kind of do still, but no, I don't like being buried away in a studio.
Yeah.
I like being able to draw in the living room or whatever.
Yeah, I think I definitely think that might be something. If not, like maybe just a laptop might be a good investment or something, because I do like the mobility idea, but my main holdout on it is I don't think their Photoshop is the same, like it has the same capacity as like a desktop Photoshop,
Probably not.
Yeah.
But what you could do is just a thought. You could do your pencils and inks in like Procreate, and then dump the Photoshop document onto your computer and do the rest from there.
That is true. That is 100% true. But I'm like super fast on Illustrator and Photoshop. Like I use that all day. So like at my day job, I'll put out like 40 to 60 designs a day. Like,
wow.
So it's
so Josh says that, but that's one of them right there. That little ink blot thing. That's one of them. They're all like that.
Exactly. This is the designs that I do.
Look at number 29.
It's not actually this either. That's too complicated.
Yeah.
It's more like that. I just sell fingerprints.
And then he gets mad because he smeared it right now. He's like, "Oh no!" And he just goes off.
God, yeah, and then that takes about 5 hours, like the going off about the smudge.
Right.
It's actually. How did you know about my day job, Jim? Like, have you been watching?
Well, speaking of going off,
he just rages all day long. That's Josh at work. Yeah.
It's that magic hour right now where I'm going to go off.
Oh, that's a good point. Well, Jim, thanks for joining us and stuff. Let everybody know where they can catch up on the Lujan verse. And
Just
all that
go to
stuff.
jimlujan.com. It's not Mac Lujan, it's Jim Lujan. But just go to jimlujan.com. That'll take you to my YouTube page. Thank you for all the nice things you said about me. And I have to say this again. I will always say this. Paul Pate, you astound me with your art. It really does. It's amazing. It's amazing. And Josh, you already know. I don't have to tell you because you're getting all the accolades. Just knock it off, okay? Stop being so awesome. But congratulations on your book and on your future book coming out too. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, we're gonna rock this world, man.
Hey, have you thought about when Jacob's apartment comes out? You should do an online launch party.
I think about it. I know I have a signing at a Barnes and Noble on like in June. That I need to make sure is like set in stone, and then I'm gonna try to set up some other signings. And I'm hoping the publisher wants to do a launch at like TCAF, which sounds super fun. So I actually had to order like a passport so I can go like out of the country to go to Toronto for it. Oh, so I'm hoping I'm hoping that happens. I don't know if we'll get in. I know like the last few years they've given them like a space for that, so we'll see how that goes. But
I hope you do a virtual one so that you can have everybody on and we can all mingle.
that's a good idea. I
write
think
the
I
book.
should make like a big deal about it.
Yeah. Just do a YouTube one. Throw a YouTube live stream and then invite the usual gang of knuckleheads, and we'll all.
I like
be
that
on.
idea. If I
You can
do
post
that,
the
there's going to
changes
be
from it.
there's going to be a requirement of like you have to drink like one drink before, like alcoholic drink, unless you're Corey.
And then you can do like Andy Kaufman when he read The Great Gatsby on stage. You can go through your book and then like read it really slowly every not showing any pictures.
Okay, actually that just reminded me. I have no idea why, but okay. Before you go, Jim, the guy who does Between Two Ferns, Zach Galifianakis.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with like his stand-up before? Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's one bit that he did that's like really weird bit that he did where he came on stage like dressed as like an old English gentleman with like a big like wig from like the like the Victorian era.
Yeah.
And he pulls out like a piece of paper and then like kind of lets it loose, and it's a long scroll. And then he's reading from a scroll and he's like, Thomas Jefferson, is he the son of a man named Jeffers? Like just telling stupid jokes. And then he's like, when he's done with the joke, he goes, thank thee. Like, it's the stupidest bit, but I still love that. Like the thank thee.
I love Zach Galifianakis.
Anyway, that for some reason reminded me of that.
Well, I'm proud to be an American.
True.
Or at least I know I'm free.
Darn right.
And I gladly stand up and punch the liberal next to me. I think those are the lyrics.
Sing it, Jim. Sing it.
So anyways, I'm proud to fill up my gas tank in my truck for $300.
All
right.
Sounding like our folk duo that we're gonna have to start at some point.
Remember, make the kingdom great again. Make it ivory.
That's the title. It's called the Ivory Kingdom.
Feeling ivory.
All my racist fantasies are going to come true in this comedy.
Ironically, the hero in his story is named Keenan Ivory Smith, or Keenan Ivory Wayans. I'm sorry. That's right. So, all right. Well, thank you for letting me harass you guys online. I'll talk with you all later. And thank you for doing these streams, Josh. I hope you do some. They're really drawing fuel for a lot of us artists out there.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. They're fun.
It really is, yeah. Except for I didn't do a damn thing while I was on it today, but stare at the camera. So earlier I finished the artwork for my film To Your Golden Tones.
Damn right. So you earned it, man.
I earned it. That's right. Now it's time to burn it. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Hey, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. See you soon.
I'm going to hang out for a while if that's all right with you, Josh.
What's up?
I said I'm going to hang out for a while then.
Oh hell yeah, man! I'm here for a while. I might have to like disappear for like 2 seconds again. But like yeah, it's fun to have the company. Like the half the reason I do these streams is like selfish, It's like I get to hang out with other people while working on art. I was actually thinking about that, when I was approaching doing this book, I was like, hey, now that I can live stream, this is cool because unlike most of the times working on a graphic novel where you're like up till like 3 a.m, now I can be up till 3 a.m. with like other artists,
Yeah. No, I think it's great. Yeah.
So it kind of solves a little bit of the
it's very antisocial.
Yeah.
If you're not doing this streaming,
and it keeps you sharp too, because I mean, actually, it's funny. Somebody asked earlier in the chats, right? Like, what one of the worst things about being an artist is, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, actually, that is probably the worst, is having to promote. Like, I hate it. I hate having to promote. I hate having to hustle and sell my stuff. Like, I wish I could just make the art and it would just sell itself. Yeah. And this bypasses that a little bit too, where it's like, hey, you can kind of work on promoting it and stuff. Get more comfortable with that while working on the work,
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And like Jim said, it's kind of fuel for the rest of us, even when we're not on, we're watching, we're just hanging out. I'll have my back turned to it. I'll be working on that computer over there and have you guys playing behind me, just listening.
Yeah, I love that stuff. When I'm working on comics, I'll listen to like crazy stuff because it's just like fun to hear. It's fun to hear people hanging out, and
Yeah.
especially if they're talking about art, because that makes you just innately want to work on art.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, give me 2 seconds and I'll be right back. This is one of those cases. I was talking to Gary about this page earlier today, but I made the dumb mistake of being like, I'm gonna have the character have a striped shirt, which if I were using a more kind of graphic style wouldn't be a big deal. But the fact that I'm cross hatching and then having a striped shirt, bad call.
Wow. Yeah.
It'll take a while.
I can change his shirt soon.
Well, luckily it's just one scene, so yeah. All right, I'll be right back.
All right. I'll keep everybody company here. Doobie doobie doo. Yeah, I'm out of water too.
All right, so now I'm curious about this mountain character.
Mortimer.
But I don't want you to give away too many. Like, don't feel like you have to give away anything.
No, I'll tell you. He's so there. Yeah, oh God, now I'm going to start talking about it, and it's going to sound like you're going to be like, oh, okay, the Great Wall. Okay, you got to have a wall with beasts beyond the wall. But anyway, he all it is he goes out and they've got a great wall, and there's monsters, there's beasts, and there's barbarians.
Okay.
So this particular beyond the wall, and then it's all the civilized people on this side of it. And he goes beyond the wall. There's three beasts beyond the wall that are sort of terrorizing the people there. And so he goes and he kills them, and he brings their heads back to this town, and he gets a reward for them. So that's all. That's essentially what happens in this.
Cool. What page are you on? Are you on?
This is page 2.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So. Right.
And then, out of curiosity, like your page rate or whatever, like, what is your kind of output usually, roughly?
Oh, I can probably do a page in maybe 4 hours.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and you I don't know if you. So I'm almost done with this one. I just got to shade the background a little bit, but you can kind of see like it's not nearly what it's like what you're doing would obviously take me decades, but you can see the level of detail that I'm using here. I'm almost done with this page.
I like it though, and I think that is part of cartooning is like simplifying.
Yeah. I don't want to get into too much detail, because I want to get it done. So
yeah, agreed.
You can just, you have to pick how you want to do the style that you want to do,
Yeah, I'm excited about the other book because it's going to take place in like Victorian England and stuff like that. But
oh, really?
I'm using like a really totally different style that's more similar to like my roughs. Like here's my roughs, right? So they're kind of like that, right?
Okay.
So it's like that if you kind of saw it through, develop the drawings a little more, but it's in that like rent. See how it's like a pencil kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like I'm kind of going to use like a much more refined but rendery style, which actually it's funny because that speeds up the process a ton, because then you have the ability to do, like atmospheric perspective and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is like, can look a lot more complicated, but it's actually like way quicker, than like having to draw every line,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited about that because I think it's going to go relatively fast. Fast for me, which is not, super fast.
So how many pages is it, you think?
200, I think, somewhere around there.
And
I can share it. Let me see if I can share. Oh wait, I can't share it because the text is there. So I did share it a little bit on stream though. So, and the cool thing is my publisher's pretty open with like me showing the process as I do it.
Right.
Which is awesome, because with Jacobs, like the publisher was the opposite, where they wanted to keep it like really secretive till it comes out.
Yeah, it's same my slop comic too. He doesn't want you to show it. So.
Yeah, but let me see if I can. I might be able to pull it up. I had trouble sharing before though, so let me see if I can even find where I have it stored.
Philip Chan said, "Wow, that is really nice." I assumed you said that about my drawings, so thanks, Philip. I'm not sure if it was or not, but
I would guess so, because I mean you just showed it, so the timing. Philip, clarify. I think you mean Paul. Okay, so let's see. What did I call the folder? I'm gonna learn that very quick once we're in it, because this was like something we just kind of pitched, and then like it was one of those things where I was pitching Jacobs because it was already completed, and then I pitched this because my sister wrote what I think is better than anything I'll ever write in my life. And then I was like finding myself with a literary agent, so I was like, you should look at my sister's thing. And I was like, not just because she's my sister, like this is like, if you read this, you're gonna want to represent it. And she like checked it out and was like, yeah, we want to represent it.
That's awesome,
because it's brilliant. And she's like a professional writer. Like she used to be a senior editor for like our local newspaper, like the entertainment section. So she'd write like movie reviews and stuff for a living.
Oh, okay, great.
So this is obviously, you see how it's kind of glowy in color. That's just because I pulled a CMYK file into an RGB setting.
Okay.
So it's not going to glow like that, but it's work done in this like rendery style. The colors are way more muted than that.
Right.
That's the style where I'm going to execute it, which is great because when it comes to like environments, it can have more of a like kind of quick execution.
Yeah.
But and then everything's going to be hand lettered in this kind of like very like, I don't know, like Edward Gorey kind of type.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is
great.
Sneak peek of it.
How long do you think it'll take you?
Not super long. Like I think about a year. So
okay.
Yeah, but that means like I'm probably gonna have to put this on hold, which is why I'm like cranking on these right now. I'm trying to get as much progress as I can before I have to kind of put it on pause.
Yeah. That's a bummer. But
it'll be cool, and it's a good book. Like it's like both books are really good books. I don't take like a lot of paid comic work,
Right.
But this is cool because I'm a co-creator of it, and so like we have equal stakes in it, and like I really believe in it. So it's like
right,
and it's also cool because it's like she's a really good sister, and so it's also a way to like try to do something to like kind of get her first book out there, because it's really good. She dedicated like years to it because it's all based on like the Browning's letters, and it's like a take on their story that like I've literally never seen, and it should be. It's like one of those things when when you read those things from history where you're just like, how is there not like a movie about this?
Right.
It's like that. So
I gotcha. Oh, cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, and I like the fact like our publisher's pretty cool too. Like they actually publish. They have like a whole section that publishes like classic English literature, and one
Oh,
of their best sellers in that is like Browning's poetry. And
oh, okay.
so it's like they already kind of know how to market
Right,
Browning's stuff.
right.
So
Yeah,
um,
that's great.
yeah, I'm pretty excited about it whenever it starts.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just in that like refining the script phase, which
Okay.
so
So you're not just exactly sure when it's going to start.
yeah.
Oh, I
But
got
I'm
you.
excited about it, and I think it'll be a really
Right.
cool book. So
That's nice. That's really cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
pretty
sure it'll be
stoked.
great. I'm sure it'll be great if it's anything like what you've done so far.
I'm
I
trying, man.
can't wait to get Jacob's apartment. Yeah, I
Yeah,
look forward to getting that. So
it's fun that it saw the light of day because that was actually my first graphic novel,
right.
and it's also one of those things where I knew there was one thing wrong with it when I
Oh,
pitched it, and
okay.
then Graphic Mundi, the publisher, like there's this editor who's the head editor that I worked with named Kendra,
Mhm.
and anyhow, she gave like these little suggestions that like tied off all these loose threads in the storyline,
Okay.
and it just like perfected it. It was really cool. It's like that editorial feedback you want, where you're like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
second you hear it, you're like, that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
perfect. And yes, let's go that way. And a lot of like that improv kind of thing where you're like, yes, and like, like you're
Yeah.
just like all about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about it from that too.
That's great.
Oh, and then Philip said, "Oops, I forgot that you check the chat periodically." Oh, that probably has to do with like I really try to pay attention to chat, but I don't think we are able to like actively engage with chat as much as as I would like.
Yeah, I'm so amazed by how well you keep this going and draw at the same time.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
But I think like if I were drawing, it would be really hard.
Right.
Inking,
Yeah,
it's like
I just finished my my page here, and so
nice.
the next step is to go through some of the text, and then lay out the next page. And yeah, I'm not going to do that and try and talk at the same time. It's just
Oh no, talking and writing,
yeah,
like that would be
forget
insane.
about it.
There's a very funny Monty Python sketch about writers. Like, I think I've talked about this before on stream, but it's one of my favorite sketches where it's like a writers' Olympics kind of thing. And so it's like this big auditorium just full of like massive crowds of people, and then like five guys in the middle of like a soccer field with like at desks with typewriters. And then it's got like an announcer. It's like he's writing, and he's starting with the letter I. It's becoming the word it. Oh no, he's making it possessive. It is. No, wait, no. Oh, now he deletes it. He's changing his mind, and like is basically like this crazy announcer like narrating writers, and like the audience is just like like yeah, writing is definitely not like a spectator sport.
That just reminded me of an old. I heard this when I was this Cheech and Chong bit when I was a kid, and I've been looking for it ever since. I can't find it anywhere. They had it was just the audio. My friend of mine had a tape or something, but it was of a farting contest, and it was in it was like in an arena, and I mean I was probably 10 years old, so it was funny.
That's hilarious.
I would love to find it now to see if it's how actually funny it is.
I kind of, I wonder. I mean, I guess there's because I was gonna say, are there even like really audio comedy anymore? But then I was remembering like it's not that long ago that Tenacious D released their album, which is that first Tenacious D album is still to this day like one of my favorite like parody song kind of things. It's just so good.
Yeah, they're really really good. I mean, that guy's talented.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of like other audio comedy. You know, it doesn't feel as like thriving as like back in the day where you'd get like I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Richard Pryor you'd get albums, vinyl albums. People had them. He, George Carlin and Cheech and Chong. That was a long time ago, though.
Yeah, even Python had some really good albums,
Yeah.
That were produced by what's his name from the Beatles, George Harrison.
Is that right?
Yeah, like 3 Monty Python albums were recorded at George Harrison's like mansion.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
I didn't know this. Like I read a couple biographies by them recently, and like I didn't know the like Beatles connection, but I guess like George Harrison was pretty good friends with like Eric Idle.
Oh, okay.
And so when they ran out of funding for like The Life of Brian, he was like, "Oh, I'll pay for it."
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you see I haven't seen the Beatles documentary. I think it's called Get Back.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, if you like the Beatles, and you like it's weird because it might be really boring to people who aren't into like the music production side like of things. Like,
right.
I think if you've at all had an interest or like had an experience like recording or playing music with a band or like are interested in that element of it, it's like it is probably one of the coolest, like most thrilling things I've seen in a long time.
Really, I'll definitely check it out then. I'm like so not musically inclined in any kind of way. It was funny. I was at Jim's house one time and I asked him if he could show me how to strum a guitar. I couldn't do it. I don't have anything in me, but I have created things, the creative process I do love. And I love music.
Yeah. I think if you like the Beatles and you like music, I think you'd like it because it's like weird and stunning. And it definitely shows you like kind of the genius of it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, there's a scene where they all get in an argument and they all have to write songs and stuff and they're frustrated. And then like they like pan to the next day and it's like Paul McCartney overnight in his hotel room has written like 3 of the most iconic Beatles songs. Right. And it's just like noodling them on the guitar. Or you have like Harrison come in and be like, I have this song, and he's bringing a song from like Abbey Road that's like one of the most iconic songs, Yeah. So he's like, wow. He's like, oh, there's this song I'm thinking about that's gotta have like something in the way, but it's like it attracts me like what? And then it's like Lennon comes in and goes, just say cauliflower. It attracts me like cauliflower. And it's like, but that's like the seed of the thing that became like one of the best George Harrison songs. It's like it's weird moments like that where they're just kids. They're like 20-year-old,
Yeah.
But they're also like these weird seasoned guys who've been playing rock and roll for a decade, Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of the footage was like there's a story behind where they got the footage or something.
Yeah, because like I guess there was like a guy who filmed a documentary. He was following them, and then they ended up making a documentary, but it like clipped out like 90% because he followed them like the entire process of recording the album. Okay. And so it's like it documents that entire process, but like so much of it was clipped out, and then a lot of it was just kind of held back by like the estate. Until I guess Peter Jackson got a hold of it, but it's easily like it's really cool. It's a very cool documentary, and the nice thing is it's done in like segments, so you can watch like one episode and then I think it's like a 3-parter. So
yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out.
But it also just highlights everybody's genius, because that's like again like it. And it also humanizes it more because it's not like you watch it and you're just like, oh, Yoko Ono's just like tearing up the band or something. Like John and Paul hate each other. It's more subtle than that. It's like way more human than that.
I know where I listened to an interview with Paul McCartney about it.
Yeah.
That's a lot about, he spoke a lot about that, how they were, what it was is he watched it back, and it really made him kind of reevaluate, how he thought about their relationship and stuff. And he enjoyed the documentary, is what he said. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because there's like scenes in it where the guy who was doing the documentary like hit a mic, and so like it's like John and Paul have no idea they're being recorded, and that's where you get some of the like real juicy like band politics stuff, and like I don't know, it's just really I loved it. I got a kick out of it. I tried to watch it with some people I know who really aren't super interested in like how music's made, and they got really bored.
Well, okay. Yeah.
Because it is like it's like you're literally sitting in on a recording session with the Beatles. Like that's what it's like.
Okay.
But it's also so cool. I forget the guy who played Rhodes with them. Like he played Rhodes, the keyboards. But he's like a soul musician. And he literally ended up on the album just by happenstance because they're having trouble making progress. And he stops by the studio like smoking cigarettes and stuff. And like they're like, yeah, we just need something like maybe keys or something in this area. And he's like, and then they're like, wait a minute, man, you play keys? Like you want to just join in on a session? And it's like like his contributions like make that album like brilliant, and it was just by accident, like because he was a friend, who just stopped by the studio to see how you guys are doing, it's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing.
That shirt, man, oh man, that's cool how you've done the wrinkles in the shirt through the stripes, Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm overdoing it a bit, but it'll come out interesting, I don't know.
That looks great. It's amazing.
But yeah, it's like it's gonna take a while to do this panel. The next few won't take as long, but
how many pens do you go through?
I actually have used this one for about 25 pages. So,
oh really?
Yeah, because I just buy these in bulk. Like they're just refill cartridges.
Oh, okay. I got you.
And then I do burn through like microns a lot, but I always have 2 of each. And then so I'll have like a 1, a 5, and like an 8.
Okay.
And I literally will just have 2 at minimum, and then when one dies, I order another. So I always have 2 on hand, so I'm not working with like a dead brush,
Right. I remember talking with Lonnie. You have to ask him about this next week. This is my favorite pen right here. It's his too. This kind, I don't know if you can see it. That kind. It's a flare.
Oh yeah, those are great.
Felt tip marker,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to him when I first got my iPad, showing it to Lonnie. And he's like, well, if I can recreate this pen, then maybe I'll get one. I don't know if he ever did that or not. I might get that about it.
I think Lonnie's been working on an iPad. Yeah, I think he's one of the guys. It's funny, it happened with the NCS a lot, like where a lot of the guys who were like old hat, like traditional, like super traditional cartoonists, almost like over the process of like 2 weeks, everybody started using an iPad Pro.
I think it was what Lonnie did. They all started.
I think so. I think Lonnie might have started it. So,
I did my first graphic novel, which is like 240 pages, maybe.
That's pretty amazing.
I did. Well, the artwork on it is real super simple. It's
full color. It's full color though, right?
No, it's not. It's actually black and white with gray tones.
Oh, okay. It was toned. That was it. Okay.
Yeah, and it's and the artwork is super like cartoony, real simple. So, and generally each page has 3 frames on it. So it was it's like a 5x8. It's like almost like a novel size. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not like big like yours. So so the 240 pages is not 240 pages of typical comic pages. But I did it.
That's still impressive, though.
Yeah, I mean, it took me 2.5 years. So, but I did it on paper, and scanned each page in, and then did the gray tones on the computer, and did the lettering on a computer. I did that. But then I did the second one. I think I did the second one on my computer, all the drawing on my computer. Yeah. And then when I got my iPad, I got rid of all my pen. I only keep this pen around is just I don't ever use it.
Yeah.
Like the only one I got, I got some ink pens. That's it. I got rid of all my stuff.
It's funny. I think like part of why I like doing traditional is because like I do so much digital at my day job.
Right.
It like feels, I think it helps separate it too,
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, I don't know what it is, but there is something I think unique about like hand done stuff that.
Oh yeah. Digital's not the same,
But I will say digital is pretty great for like editability too. So it's like even the initial making doesn't take that much shorter.
Mm-hmm.
But then just the edits and like being able to undo stuff and being able to white out stuff and like that's where like the timelines just like are not even close to comparable,
Right. Yeah. No, I mean it's not it's not a 1-for-1 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are advantages to it for sure.
How do you avoid the eternal zoom problem?
The eternal zoom. What do you mean?
So like a lot of people when they work traditionally, they have the advantage of like you can only really work with as much detail as you can see, and you're not like getting like I'm not getting like that close, like my eye's not here when I'm drawing, right?
Right.
But if I'm working digitally, I could literally take like that section and blow it up to like a huge size. And then just start overworking detail like till.
Just get buried and then get lost in the weeds.
Yeah. So how do you avoid that?
I don't think I don't, just my drawing style. I don't get sucked into that too bad.
Yeah.
And another thing is like, I think I'm more of a cartoonist. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I get it too, because it's like, when I'm working in like this format, that would be a real problem. Mm-hmm. Whereas like when I'm working in like this format where it's like the characters are kind of more like that, it's like that's a little harder to like, I don't know.
Yeah, if I was doing the detail that you're working on there, in your two stories, I would get lost in that,
Yeah, it's kind of fun to do though.
Yeah.
I started doing it mainly because of like, it was just that show where I was like, I want to do it, and I don't really know if I have a good solid reason why,
Yeah, there's not a good reason to do any of this, I don't think.
Well, we like to tell stories, and then there's got to be something strange about us, I guess, as humans. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Do you have non-art friends that just think you're strange for like doing what you do?
Yeah. It's funny. My wife can draw, but she doesn't because, what is really like we sat down when how when you're first dating, you can get people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. So one of our dates was let's draw together, and so then she drew a leaf, and it took her like an hour, and it was excruciating. She's really good, but she's just really like a perfectionist, and she doesn't enjoy it at all. And so I was like, okay, I'm sorry. You don't have to do that ever again if you don't want. But yeah, she doesn't, I don't think she quite gets it, you know. She's really super supportive, but you know, she's like, well, she always says stuff like, you know, if you, you know, if it's relaxing for you, like it's not relaxing for me.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to explain to people how it's not really relaxing or fun, but
Right.
it's like there is enjoyment in it. It's just
Yeah.
like the enjoyment that like I think you'd get working on a car or something, where it's like
Yeah.
somebody like working on a car. I don't think they're having fun. Like
No,
I
no,
think
no.
they're having fun, but it's like a crap load of work, you know, and you're probably like getting injuries and
Oh my God, it's funny that you mentioned my brother lives in Las Vegas, and so that's
yeah.
what I'm going to see here, and he's a car guy. So we talk about it like that a lot. You know, his is his car, mine's my art, but it's the same thing. He goes in there and he's just pissed off, you know, and then that's you know I got to get this window right or whatever, and he just goes in there, and he's working, you know, he's not enjoying it at all, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's like the idea of it being done. Like you know, you enjoy the idea of having your graphic novel done, and then you got to work on it and get it there and work, you know, and that's part of its work.
Yeah, and a lot like a car guy, like a lot of the times the guys could get something done probably a lot cheaper by having somebody else do it.
Oh my
Like
gosh. Yeah.
sometimes like what they spend on a part and then their own like time invested, it would be cheaper to just pay somebody to do it. But there's something like people who really want their car to be their car
Yeah.
that they get out of like being like, I made that part. I like polished
Right.
that chrome on that section. Like I
Yeah.
custom built this thing.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's just something unique about that I think you know I feel about comics, where it's like I like being in control of everything in it, you know.
Yeah.
I was explaining that my friend Rick had me talk to like his class at like Cal State Long Beach a couple days, like yesterday actually.
Mhm.
And I was giving him a recommendation like, hey, if you ever get it like a publisher and you're illustrating a book, like know that you can do the graphic design for it. Like they're going to have like an in-house person who's going to do type and stuff like that and like layout and want to do your book cover and everything. And it's like, and my recommendation is get really good at type and layout and do it yourself. Like, unless you're working with like Chip Kidd or something, and then like, yeah, let him make all the shots, you know, make all the calls. But in general, like you're going to get closer to your vision by being able to do it all, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can't do it all, like you know, you have to be comfortable with like it coming back and looking nothing like you wanted it to.
Yeah, I mean, my slop comic, it was kind of like that. There's another artist that is really good. You know, he does better than I do on the cover, and you know, with the text on the cover and stuff. And yeah, and so it was kind of like, and then in fact, we did some posters, like concert posters. He did
Nice.
for the inside, and they're just really good. So I'm like, I can't even. Like, why would I want to do it myself? It just looks way better there, you know? So, but it was kind of, I'm also kind of butthurt about it, you know, like, why do I want somebody else's art in my book, you know?
Well, I think in a scenario like that, though, like if it's an improvement, you know, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I think it's just more of like, I even mentioned this to that class, but it's like my wife, and I kind of learned that lesson early on because I'm not even going to name the publisher, but she got hired by like a kids book company, and she spent all this time and thought and like roughed out where she thought the type should be and stuff. And then the company just kind of reassured her and was like, yeah, our graphic design department, they're on it and that kind of thing. And it came back and they had like put type over areas, like she had left clear areas for type, and they like had put type over like character heads and stuff. It was like it was just the weirdest. Like they destroyed like this beautiful artwork with bad design decisions.
Yeah.
And then kind of didn't budge after that because so much time was invested and it was close to release date. So we both kind of learned from that point on, like it's okay to kind of advocate and be like, hey, I kind of have some visions for how I want to type. It's not like a big deal. Like I'm not going to be a jerk about it or whatever, but like if I can be involved in that process, maybe even do it. And here's the thing too, is like half your job as an illustrator or graphic designer is like mitigate risk, right? And mitigate cost.
Okay.
So like what's cool is like I'll actually use this as an example. Like there are really competent graphic designers working for Graphic Mundi.
Mhm.
But like the neat thing is I literally was like, hey, I'll do the cover, I'll do all the interior type, I'll give you like a rough idea of like what I want everything to look like, I'll do the typography on the cover and everything.
Mhm.
And it's like the way that I presented it, it actually ended up being less of a pain in the butt for the graphic designer who works there, right?
Oh, right.
It's less work for them.
Yeah.
It's like I also like I know how to file prep, so it's not going to be like a nightmare for them to fix it. You know, I'm like
Right.
I'm going to watch my bleeds. I'm going to keep it in the safe area. Like I'm going to make sure that it's like the right resolution. It's good to go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like
They're all about it, right? They don't have to do it.
yeah, and I just saved the publisher money too because they can have that graphic designer working on something else in the
Right.
time frame that they'd be working on that.
Yeah.
And you know, so it's like now don't get me wrong, like if you know, like with the spine and the back of the book and stuff, I totally trusted the graphic designer to do it. I gave him some ideas and then we collaborated.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those things of like the cover looks like I wanted it to look.
Right.
And there's one reason because I did it.
Like, right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I don't feel all that confident about my graphic design.
Yeah, and it's good to it like again, if you're not like super confident about it, then yeah, it's probably better to let like or collaborate with somebody you
Right.
know do feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing to like polish up on and get better at because again, you can get closer to your singular vision, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I do like is the Slop comic out by the way?
No, it's not.
I'm excited about that. That's that
Yeah.
storyline about the funk, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's it's about you know, what happened was there's a thing in the comic called The Big Reveal, and it basically like took everybody's, you know, internet search history and all their information and made it public, kind of like WikiLeaks.
Oh man.
Right. And so then what happens is, you know, of course it ruined a lot of people's lives. And so one of the main character, he's, you know, he gets, his wife leaves him but what they sort of, then it leads to a revolution, sort of revolving around music and going offline, you know, getting rid of your phone and, you know what I mean? So
I gotta say, if you're watching this after the fact, that sounds like a Corey Kerr, like it sounds like something he would love as like a plot.
Yeah, and it just sort of touches on it, and it's more about, you know, they just go to this concert. He goes to this concert. It tells the story of this guy, and you know this has happened to him, and he goes to this concert and he meets a girl that he liked in high school, you know, and then so it's real short, but it leaves it open for. I think it's really good. I didn't write it, so. That's one thing about it that's really good, and I feel good about the artwork and stuff. So yeah, I look forward to it. And it's also going to come out. What's taken so long for it to come out is there's a compilation album that it's going to come out with.
That's awesome.
Yes, with some funk musicians. So he's trying to line all that stuff up, and
that's awesome.
So yeah, I'm excited about it. I look forward to having it in print, and I think he's going to sell it with an album, you know, too.
That's badass.
Yeah,
I always think that's great when like there's a band comic that actually has music, you know.
Yeah.
I've thought about doing a band comic. I think like after I'm done with this,
mm-hmm.
and then Not Death But Love, which is that Browning's book.
Yeah.
After I'm done with that, those two books, then I think I want to do like a young, like an all ages book that's about like basically like a bunch of junior high kids like starting a punk band or something, you know.
Right.
Like how outcasts kind of find themselves in music, you know?
Yeah.
I think that would be a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
also would be a good excuse to like talk about guitars and music and stuff because I love that stuff. So, and also band politics are really fascinating, you know?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I do too. I think they are, and just the creative process, you know, the collaborative process. That's one thing that I just find that I don't really like is collaborating. Well, I haven't found even like the Slop comic. You know, the guy that wrote it's great. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't like having to go back and redraw something. You know, you know what I mean. Even when it makes it better, you know, or I totally missed something.
Yeah.
Well, I like it better when I see it and I find it, you know, and I don't mind having somebody else like, you know, hey, will you look at this, like edit it, you know, but I don't know. I collaborate all day at work, you know, so
Me too.
right, and so I want to do less of that.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, I'm gonna be doing a collaboration coming up soon, but it's like that's a rare thing for me because of the fact that that's all I do all day. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I do that all the time, and I like it, and you get really cool results with other artists, like in those scenarios. You know, with collaboration
Right.
and teamwork and team efforts, and you can accomplish more with a team than you can as an individual.
The sum of the parts is greater, right?
Yeah, for sure. But that's what I like about comics is like comics is great because you can be the entirety of it. Like you can be the director, the costume designer, the actors, like everything, you know?
Right. Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's what I like about it too.
Yeah. I gotta pick up some of your graphic novels. I have oh my gosh, Ty.
Samurai Tie.
Yeah, Samurai Tie. I have that one, and it's awesome and beautiful. But I need to pick up your detective ones.
Yeah, I will. I should send you a couple.
You don't have to send them. I want to buy them. So
Well,
I'll try to. They're on your site, right?
yeah, there's links. They sell them on Amazon. So
cool. Okay, I'll pick them up because I want to read them.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
I like the. I also like that genre a lot, like the detective fiction genre.
Hard boiled. Yeah, I was reading so much of that. My favorite author is Walter Mosley, and he's kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
I'm not. I'm actually not.
And I was reading like Dashiell Hammett. You know, he wrote like that.
That's great stuff.
Yeah, and one of my favorite authors is Ed McBain, who just writes these hilarious kind of. Elmore Leonard is another one.
Yeah, Leonard's great.
Yeah,
so, I like. I went on a kick for a long time where there were original. Oh my gosh, now I'm blanking out. It was the guy, the character from the Maltese Falcon.
Yeah,
he's like the staple guy. Yeah. Like I'm blanking out on his name, but it's like
name either.
Raymond Chandler or whatever, like the writer.
Yeah.
But anyhow, like I stumbled upon. Sorry, what?
Is that who wrote the Maltese Falcon? Was Raymond Chandler?
Was it Raymond Chandler? Hey, maybe I'm
the same kind of thing, right? Sam Spade, the character.
Yeah,
or Mark. I could look it up. Yeah. I got it right here on Amazon. Let me see.
So Sam Spade was Dashiell Hammond, but no, it's not Dashiell Hammond then, because Maltese Falcon is a different character than Sam Spade, right? Sam Spade's like Casablanca. Wait, am I crazy here? Oh my gosh.
Maltese Falcon. Maltese Falcon was written by Dashiell Hammett.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember who the main character is.
Yeah, let me see. Why am I blanking out? So anyhow,
Archer?
was it Sam Spade? Oh man. Sorry guys, I know this is like the most it is Sam Spade. Okay, so I'm not thinking of Sam Spade though. I'm thinking of the other. Oh, Philip Marlowe. There we go. Jeez. My brain was like was stuck. So Philip Marlowe, which is not that's The Big Sleep. that's why I was confusing it, because like The Big Sleep is like the same actor, but just it's Humphrey Bogart, kind of almost the same character.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but anyhow, yeah, so like I went on a kick like listening to all these Philip Marlowe, like the radio show, like that had, you know, where it's like crime is a sucker's road and it leads to two places, like the prison, the gutter, the grave, and like anyhow, it's I like absolutely love hard-boiled detective stuff. It's hard not to like fall in love with, you know. It's like formulaic, but it's like amazingly formulaic, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's kind of why I felt like I could do it. You know, I don't know. I shouldn't even say that, because you know the beautiful art that seems so simple is usually the most difficult. You know, but anyway, I felt like I could pull it off. So I had this idea in my head that I would do 3 graphic novels, and by the 3rd one I would be pretty good. You know, I felt like I could learn how to do it by the 3rd one, and I've done 2. So I don't know.
Do you think you'll learn how to do it?
I don't know.
I mean, you seem to have it down, you know, like your production time's definitely a heck of a lot faster. You know?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about the artwork. You know, it's just the story and the writing. It's not. I think I'm getting better, but I don't know if I'm there yet. So we'll see. I would love to do another one. It's called Detective Perez. So that's the main character.
Sounds so awesome.
So I would love to do another one, but like I said, it's kind of excruciating to come up with a story. And so
and then with a mystery too, you know. You have to kind of like, as I was saying about like formulaic isn't easy to write well, you know. So that does take a lot of time, because it's like there are kind of necessary components for a story like that, you know.
Yeah, and I have to have like an inspiration strike and then write it down, you know. So, like, I've been thinking about my 3rd one for years, you know. And I don't know if it's, I guess I just don't really have it. It hasn't struck, you know, or like I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do that.
It'll probably strike when you're like in the middle of a different graphic novel, and then you're like, I got to get to that. And then
well, I've gone through that process, you know, several times. I'm working on an animation or a comic or something, and like, oh yeah, there we go, that's it, you know. But then a month goes by and I've either forgotten about it, or you know, I'm like, that was a dumb idea. I don't really like it anymore. So I don't know if you go through that.
Yeah, I think that's also the beauty of ideas. Like like the longer I get into this, the more I realize like the idea is really not that important.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like an idea. Like, you know, I'm a person who like, I think concept's almost more important than execution, you know, like a good concept, like poorly designed, is better than a beautifully designed concept with no concept behind it, you know?
Right.
Like, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like ideas come and go. Like there's a lot of ideas, you know. I think a lot of it does come down to like how you execute it, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Tarentino is a good example, you know. He'll like recycle old stories, but he just tells them in such a unique and cool way, you know.
Yeah.
But But he's not like telling a lot of like new stories.
Right.
He's just taking old stories and doing them in his way, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't feel like I have a lot of ideas though. I don't. But
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I have a few, you know?
yeah. Yeah, well, this fantasy thing, I feel like I can explore. I want to try to have have I feel like it'll generate ideas, you know? Like I just like I
Yeah.
was, looking at something last night and it said something about a horde, like a ancient horde, and I'm like, "Oh man, I got to have a horde in my."
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
in a dungeon in a palace and a horde. You got to so I got to work that's not in this one, so I got to work that into my next one, You know what
No,
I mean?
I think fantasy is rife.
Yeah, I want to find something where I can have like a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I think you got to have some wizards, man.
Yeah, some wizards, some, yeah, I mean, there's just endless, creatures that fly and trolls and you name it, all that stuff. So I feel like that's what I want to, that's what I'm striving for, is like to find something that I enjoy coming up with ideas.
Yeah, something where you can be free to riff.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it seems like this might be the.
I think it sounds like it, man. And I think the idea of kind of trying to keep him like 16 pages or so, which is funny because if you keep with it, your first few stories will probably be about 16 pages. And by the end of it, you'll probably have like a story that's going to require like 50,
Yeah, I mean, which is fine.
But that's kind of half the fun of it, right?
Yeah. Have you seen Saga? Excuse me, Saga?
Saga's excellent. So good.
Read it or?
I haven't read the full thing. I read like the first 2 trades of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
it was great though. It's
yeah.
It's a similar format where it's like, or the Sandman would be a good example of that too, where it's like the Sandman's like a story that starts with a bunch of small stories that have a broader narrative and build out into this insanely complicated world. But it's mostly composed of short stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to go for, but except the broad story, I don't feel like I'm going to have a Neil Gaiman, epic on my hands by any means, but just the short stories, I just want to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And honestly, I think even if there is like a broader thread, I think that'll just come.
Right. If it comes, then great,
Yeah, because Gaiman
Gaiman
talked about that with like the Sandman, where he'd just throw in, and this might be a trick to use while you're doing it, but he'd throw in just something kind of absurd that was interesting into like one story, knowing I'm putting a pin in that as like a seed that I can plant and make something later.
Yeah, right.
So it could literally be like you do a crowd scene or something, and there's like one person in the crowd you make uniquely interesting. So that could be somebody you explore later,
Yeah. So another reason this idea came up was because one thing that I do really enjoy and I do find relaxing is I can sit upstairs like right before I go to bed. I can sit in my bed and I can do a celebrity caricature. Take whoever the last one was that I did, and I can do it in about an hour. And I just find, I don't have anybody judging me, and if it comes out, it looks like I'm great. If it doesn't, it doesn't really bother me that much,
Yeah.
And I just find it really enjoyable and really relaxing. And so I like that. I wanted to be able to do that, but not work on a caricature. I wanted to be able to have that level of enjoyment, but working on a bigger project.
Yeah.
A comic, And so I feel like this fits that bill too.
Dude, yeah, and
so,
it seems like it has room for play, which is
right.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of thing can do well too, because like at least with like t-shirts and stuff, it's like when I was doing t-shirt graphics and stuff,
Mhm.
the stuff that would like really take off was stuff that like sincerely made me laugh and have fun.
Yeah.
Like if that happened, like it usually did better with other people too, because like I don't
Right.
know, something about that like translates.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like I think about something like Axe Cop, right? Like that's a good example too. Of,
Yeah.
like something that's just super fun,
Yeah.
and the premise is fun, and
Uh-huh.
it's just like how can somebody not enjoy that? Or like James Kachalka's stuff, like
I'm not familiar with that.
oh man, James Kachalka did a comic called Super Fuckers. And it's really worth checking out. But it was turned into like an animated series and stuff.
Really?
But it was pretty much just like Kachalka just playing and riffing with like he was kind of making fun of like Super Friends and like X-Men and stuff,
Uh-huh.
but just doing it in like a very like X-rated like
Mhm.
just riffy kind of fashion. But you can tell when you read Kachalka's stuff, like it's hilarious. He also did a fantasy one, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was like Elf something.
With a K or Kachal?
Hold on, Kachalka Elf. I'll look up.
Oh, Kochalka. Okay, I got him.
Oh, it was called American Elf. And it's like really goofy, like the style of execution. But the thing is, his stuff really is fun to read because you can tell he's having fun doing it.
Right.
Like it's just
Yeah.
yeah. So anyhow, I think like coming up with a premise where you can riff and have a little fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, your drawings naturally are going to be like a million times better than Kachalka's. So, which by the way, I think Kachalka is a great cartoonist. Like what he does is perfect for what he does.
Yeah.
But I was just saying, like, I'd love to see like I don't know. I'm excited about it. I kind of want to just see like a Paul Pate take on. It's just such it's a very different genre than I've seen you tackle. So I'm excited about
Yeah.
that.
Well, we'll see. I mean,
I want to see your wizard story already.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, I see this guy. This is great. I mean, I love this kind of art where it's real rough like that. I wish I could do that.
I envy that kind of stuff actually.
Yeah.
I used to look at it and kind of judge it, and now I'm more like, I think.
Well, one of the things I like about I love watching Jim Lujan draw.
Yeah.
Because he just has fun.
Yeah.
Like he'll draw the hands. I mean, he takes them. He just draws the arm, and it doesn't have to look anything like an arm. It's just like a little noodle hanging there and these 3 fingers. But when he's done, it's and I'm looking like that doesn't look like a hand at all. But then at the end, it's like, oh, this is just brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just has fun with it and enjoys it, and it shows through. Yeah. Yeah. I love this kind of art.
But Kachalka's writing was more what I was thinking about with that too. Was like just because he's riffing and playing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I think there's something to that.
Yeah. 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 So that's exactly what I want to find is something like that with the comic project.
Yeah.
And I feel like this fantasy thing might be it. I mean, I've been wanting to do it for a long time, so I just thought I would try to.
Well, as a fan of high fantasy stuff too, I think that would be cool. Because
I hope I don't do it a disservice by coming up with names like Mortimer the Mountain.
No. You should just lean into it. That's half the fun of fantasy,
Yeah. There's these fantasy name generators. Have you seen those online?
Oh, I love it. There's like a podcast that I like.
Oh, really?
Called Welcome to the Magic Tavern.
Okay.
It's like these improv guys who basically just like improv like a whole fantasy story.
Oh, wow.
And they've been doing it for years, and it started out as like just a bunch of dudes kind of doing it casually, and then it kind of exploded so that they're like, I think they were associated with like Nerdist and all this stuff. But but the main wizard on that on that show that's been going for years literally came up with his name based on a name generator.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that for a bunch of this almost everything in this one except for Mortimer the Mountain.
I think that's excellent.
But I mean, that's kind of the campy name is kind of the point of that character. So
I love it.
Point of the story, it's in the story that he's got a funny name. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
So is this something you're thinking you might like stretch out to other stories too within this world, like this map?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The name of the story is the map maker of Ariston.
Nice.
So sort of every story will revolve around the map,
I like it.
So yeah, I've got the whole map laid out. Well, not everything on it, but I've left some stuff off. I just didn't fill it in, and I figure I could fill it in later with make up some shit.
Yeah, and it also will allow for like those moments of like, hey, I want to add this thing,
Yeah. Like I want to have some vampires in it too.
Hell yeah, why not?
Right. I heard this cool story. You'd like this. I think you'd like this. I heard this guy talking about vampires. Oh God. I'm not going to do it. He explained it so cool. So he was talking about vampires and like how they would make sense if you're thinking about like biology and scientifically, like how would it make sense to have vampires in the world? Why would they even exist? So he came up with like this analogy of lions and gazelles, right? Like why, like for example, why would vampires exist with humans when they're so much superior, right? Why wouldn't they just kill all the humans? Well, it's the same reason why the lions don't kill all the gazelles. They're the food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to maintain the population of the gazelles in order to feed the lions. So this is the same concept with vampires, is they don't kill all the humans because the humans are their food.
Yeah.
So they're this superior being, and they hibernate a lot. But they're also hibernating when humans started to develop like structures and things, so before, humans were just like hunter-gatherers.
Oh, okay. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah. And so, but then they started developing, buildings and things. And it turns out that like vampires have, when they see like right angles, there's no right angles in nature, but when vampires see right angles, they sort of have like epileptic seizures or something. You know what I mean? So that's where you get the idea of holding up a cross.
Got it.
Yeah. And so when people started building, these structures, then vampires had to go into sort of hibernation mode, So yeah, I explained all this stuff out. That was really cool.
That's kind of fun, man.
Yeah. So
there's one thing I did like. I enjoyed like Anne Rice stuff, when I was younger. One thing I didn't like, especially about that, and I think like the Twilight thing does this too.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I think that's essential in Dracula is the fact that like just by being bit, you become a vampire. Like I think that's really important. Like I feel like the extra lore of having to like kind of choose to make somebody a vampire and having like a mutual sharing of blood or something, it almost takes away the big threat. Because like half the threat of a vampire story is the fact that like, yeah, they could just make anyone a vampire like anytime. Like they can just spread and like take over and like it.
Right. Yeah, you're the food.
Right? Yeah, that's the looming threat of the vampire.
Yeah,
like at least from like Dracula, was the idea that not only was like this a bad character, but it was also a bad character who was just going to make everybody these like bad evil characters, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think like I liked that, you know, that's like the zombie threat kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But the second you make it like, well, vampires are really choosy and they don't really make everybody a vampire, and occasionally they kill people. It's just like they're like, okay, they're just bad people. Okay, whatever. But it's not as terrifying as like this,
Right.
you know, whole like,
Right.
you know, looming threat that could like ruin humanity, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like Stoker was onto that, like that part being really essential. And I feel like anytime a vampire writer misses that, it kind of takes away some of the fun of vampires. Plus, don't make vampires glittery, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I didn't watch any of the Twilight movies or read any of that stuff.
I tried to watch one and I literally saw a vampire.
I mean, when I was a kid,
sparkle like it was covered in glitter, and I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't do sparkle vampires. Sorry.
When I was a kid, I'm the youngest of 5, so I have, you know, I watched vampire movies when I was way too young.
Yeah.
It scared the crap out of me. I mean, and the part that terrified me the most was when, you know, the people are getting like, you know, everybody's dead and killed from vampires, but they've killed all the vampires, and like, you know, the last 2 or 3 characters are getting away. They're driving away in the pickup truck or whatever. And then it turns out that, you know, in the last second of the movie, turns out that one of them is actually a vampire, you know?
Yeah. Like, you know, sometimes they'll just kind of zoom in and you'll just see like the bite mark and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, right. They just scare the crap out of me. You know, I get chills just thinking about it. So I love that. I love that. That kind of like Interview with the Vampire. They did that, you know.
Yeah, that was it was an excellent. I think Anne Rice did an excellent job with those, but I do wish I get it for the lore, and that was her take on it. It was pretty brilliant, but I personally I felt like the whole them having to kind of like make someone a vampire was extra steps, took away a little bit of the threat, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though her vampires are terrifying, you know, like
yeah. Did you see? I actually read the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Killer.
Oh, nice! Was it any good?
Oh my God, I loved it because it's a historical novel.
Yeah,
I love those. But then it's also got the angle of the vampires, and it was actually really good. There's a movie too, and it's not bad. Yeah, you might like it.
I have not watched the movie, but I should watch it just for kicks.
You know, I'm not gonna. You know. It
sounds. There was Pride and Prejudice and Zombies too. Did you end up reading that?
What's that?
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh, really? Oh my God.
It's like somebody took Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice and just like rewrote it as a zombie horror story, but it's almost like word for word Jane Austen at the same time.
That's awesome.
But it was around the same time as Abraham Lincoln. Came out.
Yeah.
People like riffing on historical books or whatever.
Yep. Well, what time? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, you seem like a little tired, man. It might be about time to turn in.
Yeah, sorry about that. I am.
No worries, man. I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm just more thinking like, I don't know what time it is your time, but I'm guessing it's probably like super crazy.
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna hit it here in a few minutes. So.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was going to talk to you about.
Oh yeah. Anything else? Anything we should touch on? I'm not in a rush, by the way. I'm enjoying the conversation. So.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm sure there was something else I was thinking of, but yeah, I actually I'm always bummed that when I can't get on the stream because you guys in such a different time zone than I am. So, but I always enjoy when I get to watch it, you know. And I don't ever watch it not live. I've done it a couple times where I'll watch it back. But about it, I want to see it live. I don't know why that is. I think maybe it's because the interaction you get with the comments and stuff.
Yeah, I think there's something fun about live streams. It's fun to like watch something and sort of be able to interact with it and like ask questions or like chime in.
Yeah.
Or like interact with people who are interacting with it. So it's kind of like almost like a movie theater where you get to hear the audience.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm a similar way where I really enjoy live streams when I can catch them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll watch them after the fact, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah. I think I've done it a few times where, I knew you guys were talking about something in specific or had a specific guest on or something. So I'll put it on and draw. I'll put it on in the background. But if I'm not up for Lonnie, I'll definitely do that one. I like Lonnie. He's a great guy.
Well, I think Lonnie's like, he's a great guy, and he's an inspiration, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool that he's coming on.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get together when I come down. I mean, I haven't hit him up yet, but I'm sure if he's around, I'm sure he'll come out. So.
Yeah, Lonnie's good, man. He's a good dude. I haven't seen him since like the pandemic either, so it'll be fun to like meet up with him, talk to him.
Yeah. All right, Josh. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. What's weird is like it's kind of getting a little later too, so I might take a brief break and then restream again.
Wow.
Because I'm a lunatic. But you have talked me through, and I feel like this is the neat thing that I've noticed about these streams is generally I'll get like a panel done.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate you hanging out with me while I got the panel done. And it sounds like I think it's a good contrast too, because you are I cannot hype Paul's talent enough. You're very talented. You make beautiful pages. And you're very quick, but they don't look like shoddy. Like they're beautiful pages. And I think a good example is like in this time frame, I think you've pretty much completed a page, and I've completed a panel. That's the skill that Paul kind of brings to an art table. So anyhow, Paul, before we wrap, why don't you let everybody know where to find your stuff?
paulpate.com. There you can find my artwork, links to my graphic novels and comic books and animation. And you can also, I think there's a link there to my Instagram, which is where you'll see most of my latest artwork, which is Pate_Paul on Instagram. So.
I love it. And Philip in the chats too said you are pretty awesome artists. So thank you.
Thanks, Philip. Dang. I didn't see, I got to keep up with the chats.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
I had a really pleasant conversation. It's always fun talking with you.
Yeah. Like I said, sorry if I'm a little groggy.
No. You've been on point the whole time. I personally got the vibe, and I'm personally feeling it too. I'm just like a little exhausted myself. So, but what time is it in your area right now?
3:19 a.m.
Yeah, 3:19 a.m. So you sound where I'll be at in about a couple hours. So, but anyhow, it's been a really fun conversation. It's amazing to have you on and hang out and draw together. So, anytime, man. Anytime we're doing a live stream.
Yeah, I'd be on here all the time if I could, but like I said, it's
hard to pull. Yeah.
All right, John. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks to everybody who tuned in and all that stuff. If you haven't yet, order Jacob's Apartment, pre-order it, Graphic Mundi, and then from a local bookstore and stuff like that. And you can also buy 2 stories, a graphic novel about faith and mental illness. Make sure you go to Paul's website and buy his graphic novels. Check out his animations.
Stories too. That's great. Masterwork. Sure.
Thank you. All right, and that'll do it. So we will see you guys on the next stream, which might be tonight, it might be tomorrow, I don't know. But thanks again, Paul, for hanging.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Have a good night.
All right, you too.